Chapter 35-55. Yan Jijin opened his mouth again. Daoist Shao, if you had only killed Lingqinga, I would not have caused you any more trouble. Everything could have been settled on the battlefield. However, not only did you barge into my territory, you also took the 5-dragon Imperial Jade Seal. Naturally, we cannot just settle this with you on the battlefield. Jean Richouet, Old Master Jean Richouet, is a renowned great-grand master among us Confucian cultivators. His simple and honest reputation is revered by all. He has heard of your atrocities and has specially come to Qianyu Mountain to help this old man retrieve the Imperial Jade Seal. If you take out the Imperial Jade Seal, Qianyu Mountain will retreat and everything will be fine. We will decide who is superior and inferior on the battlefield. Imperial Jade Seal. Xiao Hua was stunned and looked at Yan Jijin in confusion. He had already given the 5-dragon Imperial Jade Seal to Do Shanjun. However, who was Do Shanjun? Although he hid his Daoist identity in the Copper Pillar Academy, how would Xiao Hua know who he was going to give the Imperial Jade Seal to? From Yan Jijin's words, even if Do Shanjun gave the Imperial Jade Seal to the Copper Pillar Academy, the Copper Pillar Academy might not announce it. With the 5-dragon Imperial Jade Seal as bait, many Confucian cultivators would come to help the Copper Pillar Academy. How could the Copper Pillar Academy reject such a good deal? As the saying goes, if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Xiao Hua laughed. I have already given the Imperial Jade Seal to the governor of the Imperial Academy to bring back to the Copper Pillar Academy. If you want it, you can go find him. Of course, I can imagine, even if the governor gave the Imperial Jade Seal to the Copper Pillar Academy, Prime Minister Yan might not admit it. Oh. The governor of the Copper Pillar Academy, Do Shanjun. Yan Jijin frowned slightly and glanced at Jean Richouet beside him. He shook his head and said, I only know of this person and am not familiar with him. Furthermore, I have never heard of the Imperial Academy returning the Imperial Jade Seal to the palace. Rascal, what's the point of saying such baseless things now? Jean Richouet laughed and pointed at Xiao Hua. Even if you really returned the Imperial Jade Seal, what are you doing now? This is the prison of the Bronze Pillar country. You keep saying that you want to use your Dao soldiers against the soldiers of the Bronze Pillar country. Why are you using your martial arts to break the law? My hidden immortal continent is governed by Confucian cultivators, unlike your Dao sect's lax rule. This old man is not talented, but I am willing to face the tyranny of your Dao sect as an ordinary Confucian cultivator, and return the public courtesy of our Confucian cultivators. Although chivalrous men use martial arts to violate the laws of Confucianism, aren't they also using literature to violate the laws? Xiao Hua sneered. You keep talking about laws and etiquette, yet you're only a tiny Confucian cultivator. What qualifications do you have to represent the hidden immortal continent? You are only qualified to represent yourself. You're just trying to find a reason for your actions. Since that's the case, let's fight. After he finished speaking, Xiao Hua's body flashed with golden light. There was some anger in his eyes. He swept his gaze over Yan Jijin and Jean Richouet and said, facing the 5 brocade cloud paintings, this old man is not afraid, let alone you 2 old men. You really think too highly of yourself. How can we join hands to fight against the enemy? Yan Jijin snorted coldly and took a few steps back. He raised his voice and said, we'll be relying on old Master Jean for this battle. Teaching the younger generation a lesson, this old man won't fall behind. Jean Richouet laughed loudly and also took a few steps forward. His gaze was like lightning as he looked at Xiao Hua. His previous old appearance was swept away. Old Master. Xiao Hua looked at Jean Richouet's somewhat trembling appearance and sneered. If we're talking, this Xiao may not be your opponent. But if we fight, this Xiao advises you to retreat. You haven't even cultivated true qi, how can you be this Xiao's opponent? Who would have thought that Jean Richouet's eyes slanted at Xiao Hua and said indifferently, who said that one must cultivate true qi to kill the enemy. Have you never heard that if one has talent, a poem can kill the enemy, a painting can also kill the monarch? A scholar can pacify the world with an essay. Never heard of it. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. But suddenly, Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of cold air. He suddenly remembered what Fu Jiwen said at the auction at Jai Xinglu. He couldn't help but size up the seemingly arrogant Jean Rushui. Good, today this old man will let you see what it means to be a great scholar, to criticize in speech and in writing, to set the world in writing, to be a scholar in his 70s, to have a sharp tongue and to correct the laws of the court. Jean Rushui roared and opened his mouth. He shouted, the awe-inspiring qi, the spirit of man, the style of writing for 10,000 years, listen to my command, fight. 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 Following Jean Rushui's 3 roars, the entire Jade Mountain immediately surged with wind and clouds. Not only did the awe-inspiring qi within several miles surge over like a tidal wave, even the silent awe-inspiring qi in the void seemed to listen to Jean Rushui's command, tearing through the void and rushing in. It was to the extent that when the righteous qi was mobilized, a chilling intent was born from the heavens and the earth. Sounds like war drums and bugles were heard from the left and right. In an instant, Xiao Hua had the illusion that he was being attacked by an army of thousands of men and horses. This. Xiao Hua was a little startled. He had fought against more than 1 or 2 Confucian cultivators, but he had never encountered such a strange phenomenon. However, the development of the situation was beyond Xiao Hua's expectations. The awe-inspiring qi was far from simple. Following the sound of the bugles, there was the sound of the drums. On the entire Jade Mountain, countless awe-inspiring qi seemed to have a spirit and rushed toward Xiao Hua like thousands of soldiers and horses. The awe-inspiring qi's sharpness actually cut through the void, producing a shrill sound. This was different from Lingqing's golden spear. There was no specific image, only an ancient killing intent. This killing intent was so bleak that not to mention the falling leaves within several miles, even Xiao Hua felt a burst of coldness. Boom, boom, boom. Not only that, but above Xiao Hua's head, there were hundreds of awe-inspiring qi pillars that pierced through the sky and directly fell toward Xiao Hua. The solemn killing intent enveloped Xiao Hua within 100 feet. It's hard to imagine. Xiao Hua sighed. This world is really too mysterious. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, how could I have imagined that the seemingly defenseless old Confucian cultivator would actually have the power to command thousands of soldiers and horses? Kill. Xiao Hua slapped the top of his head with the back of his hand. The Yuanying's hand was displayed, and it turned into a palm the size of an acre and grabbed toward the sky. Boom, boom, boom. With a series of explosions, the huge palm grabbed the awe-inspiring qi pillars and shattered them. However, the huge palm was also defeated. The entire Jade Mountain was set off by a hurricane. Sand and stones flew everywhere. Not only were the huge trees uprooted, even the black armored army who were sitting quietly were unable to maintain their sitting posture. One by one, they were blown into the air. Some crashed into trees, some crashed into rocks, and many more died. Retreat, retreat. General Hao Hu struggled to stabilize his body. Seeing the loss of his soldiers, he felt heartache. He shouted loudly and commanded the soldiers to retreat. After breaking the awe-inspiring qi pillars, Xiao Hua didn't dare to be careless. After all, the awe-inspiring qi that surged towards him seemed to be able to suffocate people. He hurriedly slapped his hand again, and the seal of overturning the sea roared and flew out of the space. Under the urging of his magic power, it directly charged into the thousands of soldiers and horses. Woo! At the beginning, the seal of overturning the sea was still like a whirlwind, rushing through a huge gap. However, after only advancing a few zhang, it seemed to have encountered a huge obstacle. Even though the seal of overturning the sea flashed with intense brilliance, it still couldn't advance even half a foot. Oh. This is somewhat interesting. Xiao Hua was slightly surprised. He looked at the arrogant-looking old master Jean Richouet in the distance. Both of his hands moved, and rays of brilliance entered the void. However, in a moment, thousands of golden rays of light appeared near Jean Richouet. These rays of light flashed around Jean Richouet's body, like countless small snakes approaching Jean Richouet. However, after a moment, those rays of light didn't fall even half an inch. It was as if Jean Richouet's body was surrounded by the defense of the 5 elements, blocking Xiao Hua's magic technique outside. Xiao Hua was greatly shocked. His face revealed an inconceivable expression. Immediately after, he rubbed his hands again. Those thousands of golden rays of light flourished and advanced a few more inches. Unfortunately, these golden rays of light only surrounded Jean Richouet and were unable to bind him. You want to go against the will of my hidden immortal continent's eternal scholar. Your cultivation is still a bit shallow. Jean Richouet laughed loudly. Your Daoist technique is inferior to the silk thread in the hands of this old man's embroiderer. Break. However, after hearing Jean Richouet's soft rebuke, another wave of dense killing intent burst out from his body. Xiao Hua's fingers trembled from the shock. The thousands of golden rays of light turned into nothingness. That noble qi even condensed into a sword array and pierced towards Xiao Hua. Old ignorant man. Xiao Hua was slightly angry. However, in his heart, he truly somewhat admired old Master Zhang's method. Previously, on the way to Jade Mountain, he had already talked with Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei about the effects of Confucian cultivation scrolls. He himself also read scrolls incessantly. After Xiao Hua cursed, he waved his hand and the seal of turning the sea returned to his space. Soon after, he coldly glanced at the somewhat arrogant Jean Richouet and waved his hand again. A golden ray of light soared into the sky. A pair of scissors like a flood dragon streaked across the sky. That dragon's tail swayed, and the noble qi that was like a magnificent army with thousands of men and horses was cut in half. The sword array was also disrupted. That golden ray of light didn't stop. Like a waterfall, it chopped towards Jean Richouet's waist. Yan Jijin, who was watching from afar, was extremely shocked. He finally understood why Leng Qingge and the others were defeated by Xiao Hua. Who was Jean Richouet? He was a famous Confucian scholar in the hidden immortal continent. He was truly an expert with a sharp tongue. One word could kill 1,000 soldiers, one word could kill 10,000 horses. He was currently the strongest person Tong Zhuguo could ask for. Although this old master didn't practice Confucian cultivation techniques, this old master was brimming with talent. His strength was comparable to the top of the 5th level. In front of this kind of expert, Xiao Hua actually didn't fall into a disadvantageous position. After several fights, he still had a backup plan. How could Tong Zhuguo be his opponent? Seeing that the golden ray of light was like a waterfall, cutting off the noble qi and rushing towards Jean Richouet's waist, Yan Jijin was greatly shocked. He couldn't help but shout, "Old master, be careful." At the same time, auspicious clouds also appeared under Yan Jijin's feet. His eyes flashed with absolute determination. Chapter 35-56. Humph, child's play. Jean Richouet snorted coldly, but the awe-inspiring aura several feet around him immediately turned into a whirlwind, carrying Jean Richouet's body skyward. He really had the power to soar 90,000 miles. The soaring dragon scissors instantly cut through the air, and at the same time, the whirlwind whistled. Unexpectedly, like Xiao Hua's nascent soul hand, it turned into a huge fist and smashed towards Xiao Hua. The space several dozen feet around Xiao Hua froze, as if thousands of years of students were waving their fists together to attack Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua furrowed his brows. The soaring dragon scissors, which were originally taking advantage of the situation, drew a few feet of golden light before stopping. Facing the 70-year-old Jean Richouet, a weapon like the soaring dragon scissors was really too savage. Xiao Hua really couldn't bear it. Just now, he had only used 60% of his magic power and didn't dare to use the full power of the soaring dragon scissors. Xiao Hua raised his head to look at the fist in the sky and the awe-inspiring aura all around him. He patted his chest, and the 5 silk handkerchiefs of the 5 Qi righteous thunder rushed into the air. Once the silk handkerchiefs appeared, 5 colored clouds rose. Xiao Hua opened his mouth, and 5 rays of sword energy fell on it. An immortal slaying platform slowly emerged from the clouds. Thunder is the command of the heavens. Once my thunder comes out, all will obey. Xiao Hua's voice was like spring thunder. He waved his hand, and the 5 Qi righteous thunder roared like 5 huge dragons winding down. Regardless of whether you're an ancient student or an ancient killing intent, under my sound of thunder, all will enter the cycle of reincarnation. Rumble. Under the 5 Qi righteous thunder, the awe-inspiring aura and ferocious killing intent were actually faster than boiling water falling on snow. They instantly turned into nothingness, or merged into the heavenly thunder, or hid in the void, and disappeared without a trace. Swish. The soaring dragon scissors from before flashed in the air and swept past Jean Richouet. The belt around Jean Richouet's waist immediately broke. Brat. Jean Richouet turned pale with fright. How is this Taoist thunder controlling technique possible? Unfortunately, before he could say anything, Xiao Hua's nascent soul hand once again covered him. Pooh! The big hand had already grabbed Jean Richouet. Put me down. Yan Jijin, who was already flying, had just seen Jean Richouet's escape. His heart relaxed. His figure originally stopped in the air, but when he saw Xiao Hua's attack, he was shocked and angry. He shouted, also wanted to use of the awe-inspiring aura. But the surrounding awe-inspiring aura's 5 Qi, how could it still listen to his command S's, SSS, SSSS, S-Dragon, S-Qi, S-Qi's, SSSSS, S-Soul Hand. This blue water was very fierce, and the sound of water splashing could be heard. The remaining stone walls were instantly corroded by the blue water. However, the nascent soul's hand was still shining brightly and wasn't corroded at all. Forget it. Yan Jijin sighed and waved her hand. She took out an inch-long white bone. This white bone was like a dagger, and there was a thumb-sized blood-red rune on it. This rune was very small and strange, so others couldn't see it clearly. Yan Jijin stabbed the white bone into her heart. Wang! There was a faint buzzing sound. The blood seeped into the white bone, and the entire white bone gave off a blood-red glow. The rune that went deep into the blood trembled. In the blink of an eye, the rune absorbed all the blood and the entire white bone entered Yan Jijin's body. Yan Jijin's face was bright red. He looked at Xiao Hua's big hand and urged the clouds under his feet. His eyes were like blood as he cried, Xiao Hua, quickly let go of old Master Jean. Otherwise, this old man will not let you go even if I become a ghost. Humph. Xiao Hua sneered and waved his big hand in the air. If you want to be a ghost, then don't be a ghost. This old man also never wanted to take the life of a great scholar like old Master Jean. He was only bewitched by you. Woo! Yan Jijin's body suddenly expanded. She rushed towards the nascent soul's hand and let out a mournful cry. Pang! With a loud sound, Yan Jijin's body exploded. Blood and flesh flew everywhere, and a lot of blood fell on the nascent soul's hand. A bit boring. Xiao Hua frowned. He waved his hand and blocked the blood and flesh. He flew into the air and coldly said, "This old man said I won't take old Master Jean's life. Why are you in such a hurry? Before he finished speaking, the nascent soul's hand turned into a ray of light and flew into the distance. Only when he was dozens of kilometers away did he release his hand. Jean Rouchouet was thrown to the ground in a sorry state by the nascent soul. Seeing the golden big hand suddenly withdraw like a god, Jean Rouchouet's face was disappointed and frustrated. He really didn't understand how Xiao Hua's Dao Sect's thunder technique could defeat his noble spirit. However, he didn't have time to think about this. He stretched out his hand and tightened the belt around his waist to see if he could reattach the broken part. Xiao Hua withdrew his nascent soul's hand, and the soaring dragon shears hovered in the air for a moment before falling into his hand. At this moment, the night was even darker, but the surroundings of Qianyu Mountain were even more chaotic. Mountain rocks were scattered, trees were toppled, and many black armor soldiers were smashed into the stone walls by the Aoran Qi pillar and turned into meat paste. After the Aoran Qi dissipated, an unconcealable smell of blood gradually diffused. Sigh, Xiao Hua sighed. He scooped up the 5 Qi Thunder silk handkerchief into his dantian. It was still set up by the Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua into the immortal slaying stage. Then, he looked at the silent Qianyu Mountain and said loudly, "Generals of Qianyu Mountain, this old man is here to save Jiang Country's state teacher Li Xiang. You can send him, and the disciples out. This old man doesn't want to kill again." However, after half a cup of tea's time, the silence was still the silence. The night was still the night. There was no change. Humph. You really won't turn back until you hit the south wall. Xiao Hua sneered. He scanned the area with his spiritual sense and said indifferently, "Since that's the case, don't blame this old man for being unreasonable." As he spoke, Xiao Hua's body turned into a rainbow. He didn't walk on the chain bridge and rushed towards the entrance of Qianyu Mountain. Buzz buzz. Just as Xiao Hua's figure crossed the cliff and had yet to fly over the mountain stream, suddenly, the bloody light around Xiao Hua's body flourished, covering the golden light in an instant. The mana around Xiao Hua's body stagnated, and his body fell into the black water of the mountain stream like a falling stone. Old man. Xiao Hua was shocked. Looking at the bloody light floating around his body, he immediately understood the reason why Yan Jijin self-destructed in front of him. This was something he had planned long ago. Just as Xiao Hua hurriedly urged his nascent soul to transfer his true essence, he heard a strange sound in his ears. It was like a flood that overflowed the sky. At the same time, a burst of light and shadow appeared in front of his eyes. It was like the mountains were shaking. The scenery around Xiao Hua had completely changed. Qianyu Mountain was gone, the cliff was gone, and only a black sky and black earth remained. There was no starlight in the darkness, no moonlight, only an unpleasant stench. An illusion array. A moment later, Xiao Hua's mana returned to normal. He frowned and stopped. He was about to open his Dharma eye to take a look. Chirp. A bird-like sound entered Xiao Hua's ears. A strange rune flashed in the darkness in front of Xiao Hua. This rune was somewhat similar to the runes of the Dao sect that Xiao Hua cultivated, but it was completely different. As soon as this rune appeared, a kind of blazing heat was born from the rune. Even the rune itself appeared a kind of crimson color. Roar! Just as the bird-like rune appeared, another angry roar came from behind Xiao Hua. This time, the rune was different from before. It actually emitted a light green color, and this color carried a kind of desolate coldness. What is this? Xiao Hua's curiosity was greatly aroused. He simply withdrew his Dharma eye and golden light flashed around his body. He was more curious. At this time, what kind of defensive array could the copper pillar state have that was more powerful than the 5 brocade cloud painting? Chirp. The crimson rune chirped again and suddenly expanded. A ball of flame spurted out from the rune, and a savage bird that looked similar to the vermilion bird rushed out. As soon as this savage bird appeared, its crimson eyes turned and immediately saw the faint bloody light around Xiaohua's body. It raised its head, and an indescribable ferocious aura mixed with an aura of desolation rushed towards Xiaohua. Yao! Yao! Xiaohua was shocked. Knowing that he had fallen into Yan Jijin's trap, he didn't dare to be negligent. His hands formed seals, and thousands of golden threads suddenly appeared and danced around the barbaric bird. Hoo! The barbaric bird opened its mouth and spat out a scarlet flame. Its body was several zhang in color and quickly burned. Xiaohua's binding technique was actually unable to land. Roar! The rune in front moved, and the rune in the back naturally didn't want to fall behind. A cyan light appeared, and the shadow of a savage beast that looked like an anteater appeared. It was also ferocious, and it was also difficult to conceal its desolate aura. Yao Formation. This is the 1000 Yao Sacred Realms Yao Formation. Damn it, why would the Copper Pillar State's prison have a Yao Formation? Suddenly, Xiaohua realized that this Yao Formation was probably what Qian Yushan was relying on. Sure enough, when the two kinds of auras clashed together, an unexpected change occurred. The entire pitch-black space instantly exploded, and the void split apart bit by bit. The pitch-black light scattered throughout the entire space. What was special was that the two strange runes circled around, and the two images of barbaric beasts carried an ancient aura as they charged towards Xiaohua. This aura seemed to be real, and one could believe that if it was on a real cliff, it would be a scene of mountain rocks bursting and trees splashing. The aura that could crush everything in the entire space attacked everything. Xiaohua's protective golden light flickered extremely under this aura, as if it could be broken at any time. Oh! Xiaohua was shocked, and then he activated the Heavenly Law embodiment technique. Woo-woo! The wind howled, and in the midst of the ferocious aura, a Tenjiang golden body suddenly appeared. What made Xiaohua puzzled was that this Yao formation actually didn't block the heaven and earth yuan qi. He activated the Heavenly Law embodiment technique, and a huge amount of heaven and earth yuan qi swarmed in. Woo! Xiaohua's two big hands separately waved, one from the front and one from the back, grabbing the two vicious beasts. Xiaohua's big hands carried the heaven and earth sleeve, and the two vicious beasts' phantoms were immediately covered. Chapter 35-57. Roar! Between the roars of the two vicious beasts, flames and water splashed everywhere, as if they could not escape from Xiaohua's control. Looking again, the torn void streaked across Xiaohua's golden body, and a wound like a baby's mouth flashed and disappeared, unable to cause real damage. Even when the stinky water fell, the golden light only flashed slightly, and in a moment, it was bounced away. This demon array is only a so-so. Xiaohua sneered. But at this moment, roar. GG. The two vicious beast phantoms roared again. Wave after wave of ferocious aura surged out from the phantoms like a rising tide, endlessly pouncing towards Xiaohua. Oh! What's going on? Xiaohua was suspicious and opened his eyes, only to see two runes in front of him. One was like a thread of fire, the other was like a gurgling stream. Above the two runes, the power of starlight fell from the sky and fell on them. The runes were using the power of starlight to produce an attack. The power of the moon and stars. Xiaohua's heart moved, and he waved his hand, wanting to use the wishful staff, but his mind changed, and little yellow and little black flew out of the space. The two little ones looked around curiously, and when they saw the two vicious beast phantoms formed by the runes, woof woof. GG. The two simultaneously roared excitedly and rushed towards the two phantoms. Alas, this Xiao was wrong. Looking at the two little ones and the vicious beast phantoms, Xiaohua sighed, little yellow and little black are monsters, and this battle is their nature. This Xiao only put them into the space, and although it is comfortable, even with the wonderful fate of yin and yang, it can't make them happy. Rather than this, it's better to let them go. Thinking of this, the knot in Xiao Hua's heart was untied. Qian Yushan's demon array was really powerful. Although the two little ones had some means, in the face of the two vicious beast phantoms, they were still not a match. Several times, they were beaten into the air, and blood gradually appeared on their bodies. Xiao Hua looked and couldn't help but feel distressed. Several times, he wanted to help, but several times, he held back. After a meal's time, although the two little ones fought more and more bravely, the phantoms did not know fatigue under the power of the stars, and soon the two little ones were at a disadvantage. This is a little unfair. Xiao Hua looked at the pillar of stellar force and thought to himself. Last time, when he had awakened Wang Baifei's spirit, he had used the devil blade to cut off the pillar of stellar force. Here, he didn't want to reveal the devil blade. After thinking for a while, Xiao Hua clapped his hand and the ice mirror fell into the air. Following the activation of Xiao Hua's transcendence energy, the ice mirror expanded to several dozen feet in size and flew above his head. Buzz! An extremely heavy force landed on the ice mirror, causing it to emit a rumbling sound. Although the pillar of stellar force wasn't completely isolated, at least 70% of the pillar of stellar force was blocked by the ice mirror. Woof woof, GG. When they saw Xiao Hua make a move, the two little ones were excited. They wagged their tails and pounced over once again. After all, they were just illusions and the runes of the demonic array. Without the support of the pillar of stellar force, in less than half an incense stick's worth of time, the two little ones paused in midair at the same time. One let out a humph and the other let out a haw. Silver light emitted from their mouths and noses, and they absorbed the soul essences of the two runes into their bodies. As the illusions of the two vicious beasts disappeared, the entire demonic array collapsed in an instant. Walala! The sound of water was incessant. It was the black water surrounding the jade mountain that fell from midair. The night sky was revealed, the light of the cliff also appeared. Right at the entrance of the cave in front of the jade mountain, a group of people wearing black armor, under the lead of a general who looked as if he had just lost his parents, stood there stupidly, looking at Xiao Hua in disbelief. Xiao Hua's cold eyes swept over them, and he simply ignored them. His gaze fell on the two bones floating in midair beside him. One of the bones was scarlet red, and the other was green. It was similar to the color of the two vicious beasts from before. However, these bones were rather large. One was as thick as Xiao Hua's leg, and the other was as big as a person. Moreover, the runes on these two bones were so dim that they were almost indiscernible. They were exactly the same as the runes that Xiao Hua had seen before. These are strange bones. Could it be that the demonic array was made from these bones? Xiao Hua knew that this was not the time to think too much. He waved his hand and collected the two bones. Then, he looked at the exhausted Goldie and Blackie flying beside him. "How is it?" Xiao Hua asked with a smile. "It's nothing, father." Blackie replied, "The boy feels quite full. It's just that the taste is a bit bitter. That little bird is a bit too weak." Goldie's reply was different from Blackie's. If it wasn't for the pillar giving it strength, the boy would have already defeated it. And this is just the beginning. If you too. Speaking up to here, Xiao Hua suddenly realized something. He couldn't help but be ecstatic. This was because Goldie and Blackie were not talking to him through their minds like before. Instead, they were speaking from their beasts' mouths. Although it was their first time speaking, it was actually very smooth. Presumably, the two little things had practiced a lot in the space. Ha ha ha. Xiao Hua laughed. Without saying anything, he waved his big sleeve and collected the two little things into the space. He looked at the group of people at the entrance of the cave and shouted, "This old man is in a good mood today. I originally wanted to overturn this jade mountain of yours, but I'll forget about it now." Quickly release Li Xiang and the others. Shao! Daoist Shao! The general at the front had just woken up. He hurriedly jumped down from his horse and bowed. This one is on horseback. Please invite Daoist Li and the others to come up. Humph, at least you know how to behave. Xiao Hua coldly snorted. All kinds of intimidating actions in his mind were thrown to the side. Sure enough, not long after, a young man covered in blood appeared in front of Xiao Hua. His hands and feet were shackled, and there were thick chains on his shoulders. The young man's hair was stuck on his face. There were many blood stains on his face, and there were also some blood stains on his face. However, these could not stop the young man's arrogance. Following the young man came out, there were dozens of people. Among them, 9 of them were strung on the same chain as the young man. The others were divided into 3 groups and strung on other chains. After the young man came out, he narrowed his eyes and looked at Xiao Hua, who was standing in the air. He stuck out his tongue and licked his dry lips. He did not open his mouth to speak. Damn it! Xiao Hua saw this group of people in such a miserable state. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He knew that Li Xiang and the others must have suffered a lot in the Jade Mountains National Prison. Even their cultivation would be crippled. After all, who would understand the principle of eliminating evil? Why don't you hurry up and remove their torture devices? Xiao Hua roared. Who knew that the general trembled and knelt down on one knee? He cried out, let Daoist know that Daoist Li and the others were already wearing torture devices when they were escorted here. The items used to remove the torture devices are not in the Jade Mountain. When Yan Jijin came over, he did not say anything. Xiao Hua frowned and asked. Lord Prime Minister did not give this general anything. The general lowered his head and said, he only said, if Daoist Li killed his way to the Jade Mountains cave, we did not need to do anything. Everything will be done according to Daoist Li's request. As long as Daoist Li and the others see them, he will definitely spare our lives. Oh. Why would this old man spare your lives? Xiao Hua was very surprised. Fellow Daoist. At this time, Li Xiang opened his mouth and said in a hoarse voice, because this Li's cultivation was not crippled by the copper pillar state. This Li's disciple should be the same. Therefore, Yan Jijin felt that fellow Daoist Li would let this Li spare their lives on this account. So that's how it is. Xiao Hua was overjoyed and nodded. Fellow Daoist Li's cultivation is still there, congratulations. If these soldiers' lives are spared, then so be it. I will listen to fellow Daoist's orders. Li Xiang said coolly. Pfft. Xiao Hua opened his mouth and a sword light flew out. Clang clang clang. Dozens of crisp sounds rang out. The chains on Li Xiang and the others' shoulders, as well as the torture tools on their hands and feet, were all shattered. Moreover, the sword light was extremely sharp. When the chains and torture tools broke, it did not affect their injuries at all. Fellow Daoist Li, this one is Xiao Hua of the Dao sect. Right now, I can be considered the state teacher of Jiang country. The princess of Chongling and Qin Xiaoyao asked this Xiao to come to the Jade Mountain to rescue fellow Daoist. Fortunately, I did not fail my mission. Fellow Daoist and the others' injuries can be dealt with after leaving this place. Xiao Hua said as he put away his flying sword. Oh. Hearing Xiao Hua call himself the state teacher of Jiang country, Li Xiang was clearly stunned. However, he raised his hand with some difficulty and said, I thank the state teacher for saving us. I will listen to the state teacher's arrangements. All right. Xiao Hua nodded and shouted to the general of the Jade Mountain, why aren't you preparing the horses? Yes, yes. The general hurriedly waved his hand. The soldiers behind him hurriedly jumped down from their horses and led the horses in front of Li Xiang and the others. Let's go. Xiao Hua looked at the flat cable bridge again. It was rather narrow and could only allow one person to pass through. He waved his hand and said, "All right." Li Xiang stepped on the stirrups and responded. He wanted to get on the horse, but he was too weak and could not get on. The black armored army of the Copper Pillar country did not dare to be negligent and quickly helped him up the horse. "Thank you." Li Xiang glanced at the black armored army and said indifferently. The black armored army shrunk their necks and replied in a low voice, "I don't dare." Li Xiang's words of thanks made Xiao Hua's lips curl up slightly. Facing an enemy soldier who had tortured him to such a state, Li Xiang was still able to say these two words. One could imagine Li Xiang's magnanimity. Xiao Hua did not save him in vain. The other dozens of people were even weaker than Li Xiang and were unable to get on their own horses. They were all sent onto their horses by the black armored army. Li Xiang shook the reins and was about to move out when an anxious voice shouted from the other side of the cliff, "Daoist Master Xiao, Daoist Master Xiao, I have eyes but fail to see. I do not know Daoist Master Xiao's true appearance." Xiao Hua frowned and raised his head to look. He saw that young Master Zhu from before was rolling and crawling. It was unknown if he was flying or running, but in short, he appeared on the cliff in an extremely sorry state. There were a few bloodstains on his forehead, the scholar's scarf on his head had long disappeared, and the brocade robe on his body had several holes in it. Chapter 35-58. Who are you? Which fellow Daoist's disciple are you? Why should this old man help you? Xiao Hua asked indifferently. This young man is not a Daoist's disciple. Young Master Zhu took a deep breath and said, "This young man is a disciple of the Zhu clan in Shuzhou's Wuyuan County. My name is Zhu Xiang. My father's name is a secret. My Zhu clan is the descendant of the great scholar Zhu Xi. Due to a rumor in the outside world that my ancestor Zhu Xi accidentally obtained the heavenly book's true enlightenment, we were forced by a scholarly family. Now that my Zhu clan has declined, it can no longer be considered an aristocratic family. However, the king of the Copper Pillar State is still obsessed with the heavenly book's true enlightenment. My father and my Zhu clan's disciples were captured by them and brought to Qinyu Mountain. Now, their fate is unknown. Heavenly book's true enlightenment." Xiao Hua's face showed a thoughtful expression. He asked, "What's that?" "This young man doesn't know." Zhu Xiang replied without hesitation, "This young man has never heard my father mention this. I reckon that my Zhu clan has never obtained the heavenly book's true enlightenment. This should have been made up by my ancestors' enemies. So it's like this." Xiao Hua nodded slightly. He understood that this so-called heavenly book's true enlightenment was probably a rumor. If the true enlightenment existed in this world, how could Xin, who came from a scholarly family, not know? How could the true enlightenment of the 5 Qis unifications be lost? However, to Xiao Hua, it didn't matter whether there was the heavenly book's true enlightenment or not. Since Zhu Xiang was a descendant of Zhu Xi and a member of the Zhu clan, how could Xiao Hua not help him? Thinking of the Zhu clan's family of 4 in Jingbei City, the talismans on their bodies, and the scroll that old lady Zhu gave to Xiao Hua in his own space, Xiao Hua couldn't just stand by and watch. "Quickly go and invite old Master Zhu Qing out." Xiao Hua ordered indifferently. "This." The black-armored general slightly hesitated. However, he immediately came to his senses and hurriedly shouted, "Quickly, quickly bring old Master Zhu and his family out." Not long after, a Confucian scholar of around 50 years of age and a dozen slightly younger scholars were supported out. These Confucians were even more miserable than Li Xiang. Some had lost arms, some had lost legs, and even more of them did not have a single piece of good flesh on their bodies, their flesh badly mangled. The Confucian scholar in his 50s had his eyes half open, and his face was swollen to a size larger than an ordinary person's. He couldn't even walk. Father. Zhu Xiang couldn't hold it in any longer and hurriedly ran over from the chain bridge. At this time, a few family guards had already arrived behind him. They hurriedly pulled him back and said anxiously, "Young master, don't be anxious. You can't cross this chain bridge. Let me invite old master out first." "Oh. All right." Zhu Xiang was very obedient. He stopped and called out to Zhu Qing, "Father, the person in the air is Jianghua's national advisor, Daoist Master Shao. He was the one who saved you." Zhu Qing reluctantly raised his head and looked at Xiaohua in the air. He cupped his hands with difficulty and said, "This old man, thanks Daoist Shao." "You're welcome." Xiaohua nodded. "This old man has some connections with the Zhu family, so saving you is something I should do." "Oh." Zhu Qing stared blankly for a moment. His eyes turned slightly, and he opened his mouth again. "Daoist Master Zhao's cultivation, is it at the 5th level of origin energy?" Xiaohua frowned. He didn't understand why Zhu Qing asked such a question. After thinking for a while, he nodded and said, Probably." "Why are you asking this?" Zhu Qing clenched his teeth. He extended his hand and pulled out his waist blade from the black armored army beside him. The black armored army was shocked. He hurriedly tried to dodge, but when the black armored army dodged, Zhu Qing lost his balance and was about to fall. Xiaohua waved his hand and supported Zhu Qing. He smiled and said, "Old Master Zhu, why lower yourself to the same level as a soldier?" Pfft. Zhu Qing didn't answer. He flipped his hand, and the tip of his waist blade pierced into his calf. Shwa! With another push, his calf was cut open, and blood flowed out. "What are you doing?" Xiaohua was shocked, and the others were also puzzled. "Father!" Zhu Xiang shouted even louder. He wanted to pounce over. Zhu Qing took a deep breath and threw his waist blade away. He extended 2 fingers and groped around in the flesh of his calf. He took out something smaller than the size of his finger. He extended his trembling arm and weakly said, "Daoist Master Shao saved my life. I have nothing to repay you with. This is something passed down from my ancestors. As for what it is exactly, I don't know. Today, I will offer this to Daoist Master." Without waiting for Zhu Qing to finish speaking, Zhu Cheng's head tilted and he fainted. That little thing stained with blood was still tightly held in his hand, and he raised it in front of Xiaohua. Xiaohua instantly understood Zhu Cheng's intention. He slightly shook his head. He couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. If Zhu Qing was trying to divert the disaster, Zhu Qing had also asked his own cultivation. His strength had reached the 5th level of origin energy. In the Daoist sect, he was a spirit-severing stage cultivator. He definitely had the strength to hold the Zhu clan's inheritance. If Zhu Qing was only trying to repay a favor, Zhu Qing had no reason to offer this item in front of so many people. It was obvious that he wanted to throw away the inheritance that had implicated the Zhu clan. Moreover, Xiaohua was a Daoist sect cultivator. Zhu Cheng's Zhu clan's inheritance was used by Confucian cultivators. Zhu Qing also didn't see Xiaohua's flying sword. Naturally, he didn't know that Xiaohua was a Confucian cultivator. What use did Xiaohua have for it? Forget it. Xiaohua pondered for a moment but didn't refuse. He simply went with the flow and waved his hand. The blood-stained item fell into his hand. After carefully examining it, he stored it in his space. Then, he coldly said to the people in front of the Jade Mountain, "You all saw that this old man took this item. If anyone dares to leak the news, they will die. If anyone dares to leak it, I will definitely return to the Jade Mountain. I will kill everyone I see. Daoist Master." The general in front of the Jade Mountain smiled bitterly and said, if the monarch asks, this general doesn't know how to report it. Moreover, Zhu Qing gave it to Daoist master. Although the general didn't finish his sentence, Xiao Hua understood. After thinking a little, he felt that it was true. If these people didn't dare to leak it, who would know that it was in his hands? If they wanted to find it, wouldn't they have to look for the Zhu clan? Wouldn't he have taken advantage of them and still acted innocent? His previous warning was like taking off his pants to fart. It was completely unnecessary. You just have to report it as it is. Xiao Hua coldly said, however, you still have to pass a message to your monarch. Don't think too much. Although I don't like to kill people, if there is any entanglement, I will definitely not be merciful. There won't be any benefits like Jean Richouet today. Yes, this general understands. This general has already reported it to my monarch. The general hurriedly replied. Li Xiang, who hadn't left before, raised his eyebrows when he heard Jean Richouet's order. His eyes were secretly filled with astonishment. Then, he looked at the black armored army in front of the Jade Mountain, who were more well-behaved than rabbits. He understood a lot in his heart. At this moment, the dozen or so guards of the Zhu clan also leaped over the cable bridge. When they arrived near, they all bowed to Xiao Hua and hurriedly left with the unconscious Zhu Qing and the others. Zhu Xiang, who was at the edge of the cliff, knelt down towards Xiao Hua and kowtowed a few times before following the crowd. Previously, when Zhu Xiang asked Xiao Hua to save Zhu Qing, he didn't kneel down. However, when he saw Xiao Hua accept Zhu Qing's item, he knew that Xiao Hua was righteous and had sincerely blocked the disaster for the Zhu clan. The gratitude in his heart was incomparable. Finally, he pushed the golden mountain down the jade pillar and threw away the gold under a man's knee. Looking at Zhu Xiang's back, Xiao Hua suddenly thought of Jinghua City's Zhu Feng'er and hurriedly transmitted a few words. Zhu Xiang stared blankly, his entire body trembling. He hurriedly turned his head. Although he didn't say anything, anyone could clearly see the wild joy on his face. Without waiting for Zhu Xiang to say anything, Xiao Hua clapped his hands and took out a few jade bottles. With a wave of his hand, the jade bottles flew across the mountain stream and landed in front of Zhu Xiang. Xiao Hua then said in a clear voice, "Young Master Zhu, please tell your father on behalf of this old man that if this old man has the time, I will definitely pay a visit to the Zhu clan." Zhu Xiang received the jade bottle and carefully put it away. He said respectfully, "My Zhu clan will never forget Daoist Master Zhao's great kindness. Daoist Master Zhao's life will be passed down in my Zhu clan for generations." Go. Xiao Hua waved his hand, lowered his head to look at Li Xiang and the others and laughed, "Fellow Li, let's go as well." "All right." Li Xiang patted his mount, and the black horse let out a long neigh. Its four hooves flipped as it rushed towards the direction of the chain bridge. However, after a while, dozens of people had crossed the chain bridge, and Li Xiang's cultivation had yet to recover, so his consciousness could not be used. However, seeing the destruction caused by Xiao Hua and the others, Li Xiang was even more surprised in his heart, and when he saw the black armored army that covered the entire mountain range, his surprise had already reached its peak. He was the second imperial advisor of the Jiang country, and had fought with the Copper Pillar State for many years. How could he not know the power of the Copper Pillar State? Since the Copper Pillar State had placed such an elite here, and even had the great scholar Jean Richouet, then what about the Copper Pillar State's imperial advisor, Leng Qingge? General Hao Hu. All of a sudden, a general in bright armor appeared at the foot of a mountain not far away. His rock-like face had an indescribable expression as he looked at the top of Li Xiang and the others. Li Xiang was shocked when he saw this person. Immediately, Li Xiang followed General Hao Hu's gaze and saw Xiao Hua's figure slowly rising up in the sky. In front of him was a heavenly horse that was flashing with a holy light, dragging a carriage and flying out. It was precisely descending from the sky to welcome Xiao Hua. Daoist Master Xiao. Daoist Master Xiao. Li Xiang's heart was filled with complex emotions. Seeing Xiao Hua's figure land on the flying carriage, he muttered to himself. When Xiao Hua landed on the flying carriage, Lu Yi and Wang Yi flew up, saying that they were welcoming their master. The two of them had limited cultivation, and Xiao Hua was afraid that the battle would affect the two of them, so he made the heavenly horse and flying carriage stop at an extremely high altitude. The two of them could not see the specific situation, and could only hear the extremely loud rumbling sounds, as well as various colored lights. At the same time, they could feel the intense changes in the heaven and earth origin energy, causing their hearts to clench together. Later on, the entire mountain range fell silent, and the heavenly horse did not fly down, causing them to be even more afraid. Only when the heavenly horse was urged to fly slowly did the two of them finally relax. You can wait here. Xiao Hua waved his hand and sat down cross-legged. With another wave of his hand, little yellow, little black and little silver appeared in the air. When Wang Yifei saw little yellow, his eyes widened. He instantly thought of what Xiao Hua had said earlier, and his expression changed greatly. Chapter 35-59. Father, Mother, two little mouthfuls of human language, jumping happily in front of Xiao Hua. Knowing that he can leave home, Xiao Huang also regains his previous happiness. When Xiao Huang sees Wang Bianfei, he wags his big tail and complains to Xiao Hua, Mother, Mother, this boy said his master is more powerful than Mother. You go and find his master. Boy doesn't believe that there is someone more powerful than Mother in this world. Master. Wang Bianfei miserably stands there, looking pitiful. He secretly glances at Xiao Huang, not knowing what to say. Xiao Huang, this is Mother's disciple, Wang Bianfei. Xiao Hua says with a smile, the master he is talking about is Mother. Ah. Is that so? Xiao Huang is stunned, then wags his tail and flies around Wang Bianfei a few times. His dark eyes stare at Wang Bianfei a few times, and cries, Boy, since you are Mother's disciple, why didn't you say so earlier? That, young master. Wang Bianfei says with a smile, didn't this little one just know? Master has already scolded this little one before. Today, this little one apologizes to young master. Saying that, Wang Bianfei bows. Forget it, forget it. I won't lower myself to your level. Xiao Huang's tone is very similar to Xiao Hua's, his tail wagging is as clean and nimble as Xiao Hua's hands. Bianfei, no need to call him young master. Xiao Hua snappily says, just call him Xiao Huang. You are this old man's disciple who is not included in the wall, so you are of the same generation as him. Yes, master. Wang Bianfei smiles, knowing that Xiao Hua is no longer angry with him. Mother, what is the same generation? Xiao Huang is very curious. Xiao Hua doesn't answer, he turns to Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei and says, You wait in the car first, this old man will talk to them for a while. After Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei enter the flying car, Xiao Hua says with a smile, Xiao Huang, this world is incomparably huge, it is not something our family can compare to. Moreover, there are a lot of people and a lot of things in this world that you can't know by staying by Mother's side. Previously, Mother was reluctant to let you go out because she was afraid that you would encounter some danger. Just now you also saw those two. Savage beast soul, although they are very powerful, there are many things in this world that are more powerful than them. Mother, this boy is not afraid. This was Goldie's answer. Daddy, how powerful is he? This was Little Black's question. Hee, you can only know how powerful he is when you see it with your own eyes. As for whether I'm afraid or not, that's secondary. The most important thing is to stay alive. Xiao Hua lovingly looked at the two little things. He knew that today was the day of separation, and these two demonic beasts couldn't even differentiate between Mother and father, how could they become real demonic beasts? A demonic beast that couldn't even distinguish between peers was definitely not a qualified demonic beast. Xiao Hua's exhortation lasted for several hours. Seeing the scorching sun overhead, under the flying car, Li Xiang and the others were a little tired from riding. Only then did Xiao Hua reluctantly listen. It seemed that he still had a lot to say, as if he always wanted to keep the two little things by his side for a while longer. However, the two little things' wings had to grow and they could only leave his side. He had done everything, so the two little things could only remain ignorant forever. Seeing that Goldie was a little impatient and Little Black was listening with great interest, Xiao Hua couldn't hide a kind of feeling in his heart. It was as if the two's departure emptied his heart. Suddenly, a kind of distant memory appeared in his mind. That memory was some white hair, some tears, and some faint fragrance of milk. Mother. Xiao Hua's eyes were moist. Where are you? Mother. At this time, an even weaker voice sounded. This boy also wants to go out with you. What are you going to do? You're so young, didn't you hear what Mother said? It's very dangerous outside, wait until you're a little older before you tell Mother. Goldie's voice was very impatient. Xiao Hua was helpless as he looked at Little Silver and said, Little Silver, just call this old man Master. Yes, Master. Little Silver felt very wronged. It looked like he also wanted to be rebellious like Goldie. It's not that I don't want you to go. Xiao Hua suddenly had the awareness of being a mother, and almost self-taught, he coaxed Little Silver. Look, your mother and Little Black are both gone, so doesn't this mean that there's no one by this old man's side? Do you want this old man to be alone at home? That's true. Little Silver mumbled a little. Xiao Hua struck while the iron was hot. Also, Little Silver is very capable, and can help this old man by staying with him. Wasn't it Little Silver who discovered the primordial stone mine in Black Cloud Ridge? You've really done this old man a big favor. The boy knows. Little Silver was a little proud as he nodded his little head repeatedly. Mother, when is the boy leaving? Goldie urged. Xiao Hua looked at the scorching sun and said, Go now, but you have to remember, don't have the heart to harm others, and be on guard against them. You two have to discuss everything, Mother, you've already said this 4 times. Xiao Huang interrupted Xiao Hua's words. Little Black said, Yes, Father. The boy understands, he definitely won't let Father worry. The boy will take a look outside, he'll be right back. I go. Xiao Hua waved his hand. No matter how much they talked, they had to part in the end. Even if he didn't let Goldie go today, what about tomorrow? The day after tomorrow. All right. Goldie wagged his tail and soared into the sky. He casually put down something and flew away. Little Black didn't hesitate and hurriedly chased after him. Seeing the two leave, Xiao Hua's heart softened and his eyes became slightly warm. Fortunately, before Xiao Hua could release his divine senses to catch up with the two little ones, one black and one yellow light flashed, and the two little ones flew onto Xiao Hua's shoulders. They hugged Xiao Hua's head on each side and called out, Mother, Father, the boy really is going out to take a look, he'll be right back, don't be sad. Xiao Hua quietly rubbed his eyes and smiled. The wind is a little strong, Mother got sand with her own eyes. Don't worry, you two go. Be careful, take a look, and learn more. Mother will be waiting for you two at home. Although Goldie wanted to go out, he was also reluctant to part with Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's sadness just now made his heart clench. Hearing Xiao Hua's comforting words, he seemed to have grown up a little. He looked at Xiao Hua and said, Mother, don't worry. The boy will definitely become the most awesome in the world, and then come back to help Mother. Mother doesn't want you to become the most awesome, and I don't want you to become the most outstanding. Xiao Hua smiled and stroked Goldie's and Little Black's heads. You two have a good experience. Coming back safely is Mother's greatest wish. I know, Mother. Goldie jumped up again. The boy is going out to take a look, maybe he'll come back tomorrow. It's all right. Xiaohua concealed the parting in his heart and nodded slightly. It's already late, go quickly. Yes, Daddy. Little Black obediently flew away from Xiaohua's shoulder. Goldie acted coquettishly for a moment before flying away. However, after flying away, Goldie flew back to Little Black's head. The two little ones could be considered to have turned their heads while flying. Xiaohua felt very upset. His divine senses followed them for more than 10 li, and then looked into the distance for nearly 1,000 li before he retracted it. Shouldn't I give them more things? Teach them more ways to protect themselves? Xiaohua sighed and touched Little Silver, who had also taken the opportunity to jump onto his shoulder, a little regretful in his heart. Unlike Yuan Tongtian, Xiaohua had only given the two little ones the rejuvenation pill. He hadn't even given them the mother-child spirit fruit, let alone any cultivation methods. Xiaohua's intuition told him that what he had might not be the best. Moreover, Goldie and Little Black had already said earlier that some things had gradually emerged in their minds, which were their respective inheritances and cultivation paths suitable for them. If he stretched his hand out for no reason, it would only delay their growth, just like keeping them by his side in the past. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the day after tomorrow. Xiaohua looked into the distance and thought, they'll come back after suffering a little, right? Xiaohua was now the father and mother of his children on a long journey. He was afraid that his children would suffer a lot, but he also wanted them to come back sooner, and even more so, he wanted them to have some success. But how could Xiaohua control the affairs of this world? The waves that Goldie and Little Black had stirred up were beyond Xiaohua's expectations. Little Silver, hurry up and cultivate when you get home. Xiaohua was like a nagging old man as he exhorted Little Silver. Help this old man after you've succeeded in your cultivation. Otherwise, your mother will blame you when she comes back. Yes, master. Little Silver nodded obediently like a little person. Come out later. Xiaohua said. Yes, master. Louis and Wang Bianfei stayed in the flying car. Listening to Xiaohua talk so much to the two little ones, they each had something on their minds and their eyes were red. Hearing Xiaohua call them, they hurriedly came out to answer. Master, you're really too good to them. Louis, who hadn't spoken rashly all this time, looked at Little Silver on Xiaohua's shoulder and said enviously, it's not like you're a demon pet at all. This is this old man's boy. Xiaohua sighed and stroked Little Silver. Little Silver also obediently licked Xiaohua's finger with his little tongue. This old man has never treated them as demon pets. By the way, master, I heard Daoist Xiao say that demon pets need to be bound with some kind of restriction, otherwise, they might betray their master or be captured by other cultivators. Louis was still a little worried as he asked, Master, you definitely don't have any restrictions on them, right? If you let them go just like that. What kind of restriction would my children need? Xiaohua said with a smile, they're all intelligent and can understand human speech. This old man has never thought of it that way. However, if anyone dares to bully them, this old man absolutely won't let them off even if I go to the 9th heaven or the 9th hell. Thinking of how protective Xiaohua had been in the Black Cloud Ridge primordial stone mine, even when the Black Bear's spirit had been bullied, Xiaohua had still wanted the other party's arm. Louis stuck out his tongue and laughed. I hope no one is blind. Otherwise, they'll be in deep trouble. Chapter 3560. Master, is this little guy called Little Silver? Can he play with us? Wang Bianfei asked with shining eyes. If you let him stay in the small Qinquan bag all the time, of course he'll get sick of it. This little one thinks it's great to be by your side. Why do they want to leave? I think it's because Master doesn't want them to come out. Hee, you're right. Xiaohua nodded and patted little Silver. Go play with them. If you want to cultivate, come back to me. Yes, Master. Little Silver was more obedient than Little Yellow. He flew up from Xiaohua's shoulder and landed on Wang Bianfei's head, making Wang Bianfei laugh. Seeing the envy in Lu Yi's eyes, Xiaohua smiled and waved his hand. The divine power centipede came out of the space. Xiaohua pointed at Lu Yi and said, "You go too. Accompany Lu Yi, and I'll give you benefits in the future." Chirp chirp. The divine power centipede was very happy. Although its expression couldn't be seen, its twisted waist revealed its intentions. It drew a black line in the air and landed on Lu Yi's shoulder. The divine power centipede naturally wasn't as fun as Wang Bianfei. It was even a little scary. However, Lu Yi had seen how powerful it was before, so he naturally knew more than Wang Bianfei. When he plucked up his courage to touch the divine power centipede's cold carapace, the divine power centipede waved its antennae in response. Lu Yi's mood improved greatly. AI, that's right. Although this Xiao space is good and full of spirit qi, it doesn't have human energy. Who can resist loneliness? Even Lu, of Nirvana strives to move forward in the midst of Nirvana. Xiaohua looked at the four little things' happy and harmonious appearances and secretly made a plan in his heart. Whether it was the yang side of the space or the yin side of the space, they both needed energy. It looked like he would have to spend more effort in the future. I wonder how Little Yellow and Little Black are doing. As Xiaohua pondered, he suddenly thought of the two little ones. In the end, Xiaohua dismissed the idea of releasing his divine will or Buddhist awareness to check on the two little ones. Since he was going to let go, he might as well leave them behind. There were many things in the world that were difficult to reconcile, and he didn't lack parting with them. Below Xiaohua, Li Xiang and the others were still riding on their horses. They did not dare to stop and rest. Although these people were cultivators, the torture they suffered in the Jade Mountain prison was several times more than ordinary people. Now, they could not hold on any longer. Xiaohua's divine sense swept across the flying carriage and ordered them to rest. Then, he walked towards Li Xiang and cupped his fists. "Fellow Daoist Li, this Xiao has some matters to attend to, so this Xiao was unable to invite fellow Daoist to ride on the flying carriage. I hope you can understand." Li Xiang was stunned. He did not expect that Xiaohua's first words would be an apology. When he came back to his senses, he hurriedly waved his hand and said, "The flying carriage is Daoist Zhao's own property. I have already received Daoist Zhao's grace. How can I care about such a small matter? It's good that fellow Daoist doesn't mind." Xiaohua said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist, please rest for a moment and check out the situation of the disciples first." "All right," Li Xiang nodded and said, "Spiritual Master, please return to the flying carriage first. I will report to you later." "No need." Xiaohua reached out his hand and took out some prepared clothes and some pills from his small universe bag. He handed them to Li Xiang and said, "This Xiao can just wait here. Thank you for your trouble, Daoist Xiao." Seeing that Xiaohua had prepared so thoroughly, Li Xiang was very happy. He cupped his fists and received them. At this time, several disciples came over from behind him. After greeting Xiaohua, they helped Li Xiang take the clothes and pills back. There was not much to say in the wilderness. Dozens of people helped each other remove the remaining iron chains and torture tools from their bodies. They simply tidied up and changed their clothes. After taking some pills refined by Xiaohua and resting for a while, they gathered in front of Xiaohua and bowed again to thank him. Seeing that everyone was still somewhat tired, Xiaohua smiled and took out some spirit fruits and handed them to Li Xiang, saying, "Fellow Daoist Li, please distribute these to the disciples. After eating, we will rest for a while. It won't be too late to continue our journey when we are full of energy." Li Xiang saw that Xiaohua respected him very much and did not directly overstep his boundaries. He was even happier in his heart. After receiving the spirit fruit, he first took one for himself, then had someone distribute it to the other disciples. He smiled and said, "Jinren Shao is really considerate. It has been a long time since I, Li, ate such a good spirit fruit. It's nothing. Fellow Daoist Li suffered a lot in prison. These are all compensation." Xiaohua waved his hand and looked at the people sitting on the ground. He asked, "How are the disciples?" When his disciples were mentioned, Li Xiang's face became bitter. He shook his head slightly and said, "The situation isn't too good." "Oh." Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, "Can you tell me the details?" "Actually." Li Xiang smiled bitterly and explained, "The Copper Pillar state is far from as benevolent as Daoist Shao thinks. That day, they didn't think about destroying this Li Xiang's nascent soul. It's just that before they used the Confucian secret technique, they suddenly stopped. At that time, the jailer didn't plan to hide this Li Xiang's plan. He directly passed down the order of the Copper Pillar State's king, saying that he wanted to keep this Li Xiang's nascent soul for great use. That's why this Li Xiang's nascent soul was imprisoned. It's not like what the former Jade Mountain Guard general said. Keeping fellow Daoist's nascent soul for great use. Xiaohua was somewhat confused. However, he also knew that Li Xiang couldn't possibly know the details. Asking would be pointless. Thus, he said, no matter what, fellow Daoist was able to keep his nascent soul. His 1,000 years of cultivation didn't turn into water. This is already very fortunate. What about your disciples? The disciples under this Li Xiang's tutelage aren't so lucky. Li Xiang said, there are 40 of them. Among them, there are 5 golden core cultivators. The rest are in the heartbeat and spirit silence realms. The 5 disciples' golden cores were completely destroyed. As for the other 40 disciples, more than half of their cultivations were destroyed. Now, they are all mortals. It's that serious. Although Xiaohua said it was serious, his expression didn't change. After all, as Li Xiang said, they were both enemies. He was able to kill Leng Qingge and force Yan Jijin to self-detonate. Naturally, the king wouldn't be merciful to Li Xiang and the others. Needless to say, the remaining half of the disciples were naturally all low-level disciples in the heartbeat realm. It was the same logic as how he couldn't completely kill all the ordinary black armored army in front of the Jade Mountain. Li Xiang sighed, I am not talented. Although I have already cultivated to the nascent soul stage, I can be considered a Dao sect grandmaster of the hidden immortal continent. However, I do not have any attainments in the Dao of alchemy. Furthermore, the Dao sect of the hidden immortal continent is declining, and the spirit grass and pill formulas are all controlled by the Confucian cultivators. I'm afraid it will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Oh. Xiaohua looked at Li Xiang, who was not in a good mood, and laughed, let those disciples whose cultivations have been destroyed come over. I will help them take a look, and maybe I can help you think of a way. Ah. Daoist Master Xiao. Li Xiang was startled, then immediately became wild with joy. He could not believe his own ears. After all, there was no special connection between strength and alchemy. He used to be the imperial advisor of a country, but he did not have such a method. Xiaohua, this. Although he was the imperial advisor, he was actually the imperial advisor in name. What kind of spirit grass could the Jiang country, which no longer existed, provide him with? Xiaohua actually proposed to take a look, and even said that he would think of a way. He must have some confidence. Daoist Master. Please wait a moment. Li Xiang anxiously turned his head and ordered his disciples to hurry over. Xiaohua had some experience in recovering his cultivation. Nearly 30 cultivators checked one by one, and even asked in detail. Everyone could not suppress their joy as they stared at Xiaohua's face. Unfortunately, other than a faint smile on Xiaohua's face, there was still a faint smile. They could not see anything else, but it was this faint smile that gave them great confidence. Xiaohua was extremely patient, and he checked for an entire hour before raising his head and smiling at Li Xiang. Fellow Daoish Li, there's no need to worry. After the shackles on your nascent soul are removed, I'll make a move with you, and the cultivations of these disciples will surely be able to recover completely. Alright, everyone's hearts had been hanging there the entire time. When Xiaohua finally spat it out, they couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief, and their gazes became even more fervent. Daoist Master. Li Xiang was also relieved. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. To be honest, in the previous Jade Mountain, he had never thought that he would be able to come out alive, and he was really tired of the days of being the Imperial Advisor. He had been the Imperial Advisor twice. The first time was the Imperial Advisor of the Li Nation. He had racked his brains for the Li Nation, but in the end, the Li Nation was destroyed and he had no choice but to submit to the Jiang country. Fortunately, the Jiang country was also established by the Dao sect, and in order to survive, he had no choice but to become the second Imperial Advisor of the Jiang country. This was his second time as the Imperial Advisor. But even so, how could his disciples not have any friction with Qin Haoyue's disciples? Although the hidden immortal continent did not allow Dao sect cultivators to recruit disciples and only allowed Dao sect disciples to serve the country, weren't these disciples their own disciples? How could Li Xiang and Qin Haoyue not know about the friction between their disciples? In addition, Qin Haoyue was not a magnanimous person, so Li Xiang was suspected and probed a lot. Even so, in the end, Li Xiang's cultivation did not increase by much, and instead, because of the destruction of the Jiang country, he was captured by the Copper Pillar State and brought to the Jade Mountain. Xiaohua saved Li Xiang, and when Xiaohua revealed his identity, Li Xiang already understood. He had already thought of an excuse, and even when Xiaohua asked why his cultivation was not crippled, he spoke up for the Jade Mountain's guard general. It was obvious that he did not want to offend the Copper Pillar State, and he did not want to be the master of a country. That was really meaningless. However, Xiaohua did not invite him to the flying carriage, nor did he mention anything about the Jiang country. Now, he even proposed to help his disciple recover his cultivation. Xiaohua's words were good, he wanted to attack together with him, but he was very clear in his heart, how could he have such cultivation? This was Xiaohua giving him face. Alright, fellow Daoish Li, please get on the carriage. I have some things to ask you. Xiaohua did not look at Li Xiang's hesitation, and invited with a smile, if there is nothing special about your disciple, we should hurry on our way as soon as possible, and talk as we go. After all, if we can reach the Black Cloud Ridge earlier, we can help them recover their cultivation earlier. Chapter 35-61. Seeing Xiaohua like this, Li Xiang could only sigh and smile. I don't dare to ask for advice. Daoist Xiao, please. Then, Li Xiang ordered the disciples to get on their horses and head towards Black Cloud Ridge. Although the disciples couldn't fully recover, when they heard that reaching Black Cloud Ridge a day earlier meant that they could recover their cultivation a day earlier, how could they not get on their horses? Even the disciples who still had their cultivation hurriedly activated their cultivation techniques, hoping to be able to fly as soon as possible. Xiaohua waved his hand and the Pegasus flew down. Xiaohua ordered Lu Yi and Wang Beifei to get off and ride the horse that Li Xiang was riding before, while he invited Li Xiang to get on the flying carriage. When the Pegasus rose into the sky again, Li Xiang and the other disciples also started to hurry on. Ai, Daoist Xiao. Li Xiang sat on the flying carriage and looked at the shining Pegasus in front of him and sighed, using this Pegasus, isn't it too ostentatious? Aren't you afraid that Confucian cultivators will be jealous? Hee, this Xiao has done many things that would make Confucian cultivators jealous, this one won't make a difference. Xiao Hua laughed and didn't mind. This one won't make a difference. Li Xiang said with a smile. Daoist Xiao took the Zhu clan's ancestral item right in front of me. Although this Li doesn't know what it is, since even the king of Bronze Pillar country was moved, it must be something that Confucian cultivators would be jealous of. This Xiao also doesn't know what it is. Xiao Hua clapped his hand, and a fingernail-sized bone appeared in his hand. At that time, this Xiao only thought that this item would be of some use to this Xiao, and could also help the pitiful Zhu family resist the disaster, so I accepted it. That Zhu clan's head is too calculative. Li Xiang was naturally more calculative than Xiao Hua and sighed slightly. This item is hidden in the flesh. If this Li guessed correctly, it should be condensed together with the bone. Even if you used the clear eyes technique, you wouldn't be able to find it. The previous general of Jade Mountain used who knows how many methods to interrogate the whereabouts of this item, but he never thought that it would be in someone's calf. Moreover, the moment the Zhu clan's head escaped danger, he immediately took out this item without hesitation. He kept saying that he was grateful to Daoist Xiao, but he really had evil intentions. If this Li was this Li would definitely turn around and leave at that time and ignore him. Daoist Xiao is too kind. Daoist Li's head's hand. Xiao Hua asked with interest. Li Xiang replied without hesitation, even if I take this item, I will definitely make the generals of the Jade Mountain swear a blood oath. I will even force the king of the Bronze Pillar country to swear that no one will speak of this matter. That Zhu family head will go for wool and come home shorn. It's not that bad. Xiao Hua said with a smile, sometimes, suffering losses is a blessing. If not for the fact that Zhu Qing was forced into a dead end, he might not have handed over the inheritance of his family to this Xiao. The reason why he did this was because he was thinking about the future of the Zhu clan, right? Xiao, S head, SSS have S is Xiao's Xiang's. SAS Xiao Hua laughed. Fellow Daoist Li is really good at joking, S Xiao's, head, S, Xiao's. Don't even mention how much trouble this Xiao will have to bear for this item. Li Xiang laughed. Even the Buddha Kingdom's old Baldy wouldn't be able to do such a thing. Xiao Hua put away the bone. Li Xiang didn't ask any more questions. Xiao Hua's. Xiao Hua waited for Li Xiang to sit down before saying, if Daoist Xiao is at ease, then let me take a look at your nascent soul and see if I can help you break the seal. Of course I'm at ease. Li Xiang shook his head. But the seal on my nascent soul was made by a Confucian cultivator. I can't sense my nascent soul at all. Even if I use a technique, my nascent soul won't move. I'm afraid I'll have to find a Confucian cultivator's friend and ask them to help. But then, he smiled bitterly. Moreover, this seal was made by the Copper Pillar State's Lingqinga. If I want to break it, I'll have to find someone with a higher cultivation than him. I'm afraid they'll have to be at the 5th level of the Origin Energy Great Grandmaster. Secondly, the Great Grandmaster has to be afraid of the Copper Pillar States. Difficult. But then, Li Xiang suddenly froze. In his mind, the scene of Xiao Hua spitting out a flying sword and chopping off the chains on his body appeared. Then, he thought about how Xiao Hua took the Zhu clan's ancestral treasure without hesitation. He almost blurted out, Daoist master. Could it be, you also know Confucian cultivation techniques? Just so. Xiao Hua smiled. My cultivation isn't good enough. I can barely kill Lingqinga. Lingqinga was killed by Daoist Xiao. Li Xiang was even more shocked. Yes, Yan Jijin is also dead. Xiao Hua said indifferently. Just in front of the Jade Mountain. Li Xiang was stunned for a long time before coming back to his senses. He nodded and said, I finally understand why the Jade Mountain's guardian general was so respectful to Daoist Xiao. Even General Hao, who stood at the top of the mountain and didn't dare to say a word. Oh, looks like Zhu Qing really went for wool and came home shorn. This is called suffering a loss is a blessing. Xiao Hua corrected. Now, Daoist Xiao can rest assured and let me take a look. Of course, of course. At this point, how could Li Xiang not be at ease with Xiao Hua? How could he not let Xiao Hua take a look? After obtaining Li Xiang's permission, Xiao Hua extended his hand and pointed his index finger at Li Xiang's lower dantian. A thin, almost inaudible crystal thread came out from his index finger. After watching the crystal thread enter Li Xiang's body, Xiao Hua closed his eyes and seemed to be thinking. Li Xiang looked at Xiao Hua's expression. It was actually the same as the previous disciples, with a smile on his face. Li Xiang's heart also rose to his throat. Fortunately, after half a cup of tea's time, Xiao Hua opened his eyes and said with a smile, Daoistly, this restriction was set up by the bronze pillar state using the 5 brocade cloud diagram. If you don't know the 5 brocade cloud diagram, I'm afraid it won't be easy to break it. Ah. Li Xiang clearly hadn't heard of the 5 brocade cloud diagram. His face revealed disappointment. He forced a smile and said, Many thanks, Daoist Xiao. Since you know the origin of the restriction, I'll find someone to break it later. Daoistly, why didn't you let me finish? Xiao Hua smiled and said, This 5 brocade cloud diagram was also the killing array that Ling Qinga had set up in the Black Cloud Ridge that day. This Xiao killed Ling Qinga and just happened to destroy this array. That array diagram is now in this Xiao's hands. Phew. Li Xiang let out a breath of relief. He wasn't surprised anymore. After all, Xiao Hua gave him too many surprises. Oh. Xiao Hua saw that Li Xiang's face didn't show any joy. He felt strange and asked, What? Could it be that Daoist Li doesn't believe me? Li Xiang helplessly shook his head, Daoist Xiao, I feel that there isn't any difficulty for you at all. I'm too lazy to be happy. Daoist Li's words are good. I like it very much. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, If Daoist Li is anxious, I can break the restriction in your body right now. Many thanks, Daoist Xiao. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't anxious. A nascent soul cultivator suddenly turned into a mortal. The sense of insecurity in his heart was far greater than others. Li Xiang hurriedly cupped his hands and said. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, However, I'm afraid that I can't let Daoist Li see the method to break the restriction, no worries. Li Xiang hurriedly said with a smile, Right now, I'm the fish and Daoist Xiao is the knife. As long as Daoist Xiao doesn't chop me into fish paste, it's fine. Xiao Hua laughed and patted the heavenly horse. The heavenly horse neighed and rushed into the sky with the flying carriage. In a moment, it disappeared from everyone's eyes. The restriction on Li Xiang's nascent soul came from the 5 brocade cloud diagram. Not only could the 5 brocade cloud diagram be broken, even the 5 Qi thunder could also break it. Xiao Hua even thought about whether or not he should use the heaven cleansing earth technique to try it. However, seeing that the nascent soul in Li Xiang's lower dantian was already extremely weak, Xiao Hua was afraid that he might injure this nascent soul and damage Li Xiang's Dao foundation. As the saying goes, those who don't know how to do it are not difficult for those who know how to do it. In Li Xiang's eyes, the seemingly extremely difficult restriction was broken by Xiao Hua and the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Li Xiang opened his eyes and sensed his body. His nascent soul had already returned to normal and there was nothing abnormal about his body. Although he didn't know if Xiao Hua did anything to him, looking at Xiao Hua's very calm expression, he didn't think too much. After all, Xiao Hua didn't need to go through so much trouble. Daoist Xiao, do you have a jade phosphorus pill? After checking his nascent soul, Li Xiang didn't hold back and simply asked Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua shook his head. I don't have a jade phosphorus pill. Li Xiang was slightly disappointed and said with a smile, my nascent soul was injured. If I cultivate in peace, I'm afraid it will take several years to recover. When I was captured, all my medicinal pills, magic weapons, and other things fell into the bronze pillar state. When Daoist Xiao rescued me, the guarding general didn't return my Qinkuan bag. Presumably, those things aren't in the Jade Mountain, and my jade phosphorus pill is in my Qinkuan bag. I don't have a jade phosphorus pill, but I have a nourishing spirit pill and a clearly pill. Xiao Hua said with a smile and took out 2 jade bottles. Nourishing spirit pill. Clearly pill. Li Xiang frowned. He had never heard of the names of these 2 medicinal pills. Oh, nourishing spirit pill is used to repair divine sense, and clearly pill is used by golden core cultivators. Xiao Hua explained. I don't have medicinal pills for nascent soul cultivators like me, so I ask for fellow Daoist Li's forgiveness. Li Xiang smiled bitterly. How could the medicinal pills used by golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators be the same? However, when he thought about it, Xiao Hua wasn't a real state preceptor, so how could he have real medicinal pills? Fellow Daoist Li, take it first. It's better than nothing. Xiao Hua handed over the jade bottles and said, if fellow Daoist Li has the pill recipe, I can actually refine a jade phosphorus pill for fellow Daoist Li. The jade phosphorus pill's pill recipe is in the hands of state preceptor Qin Haoyue. I don't have it. Li Xiang's words were not without resentment. When I was the state preceptor in Li country, I also entrusted others to refine medicinal pills. The pill recipe I obtained later is also in my Qinkuan bag. Chapter 3562. After Li Xiang finished speaking, he looked at the jade bottle that Xiao Hua handed to him. After pondering for a bit, he reached out and took it. After all, Xiao Hua was right. Something is better than nothing. His nascent soul is weak, any kind of medicinal pill is fine. Looking at the ugly medicinal pill in his hand, Li Xiang's face revealed a strange expression as expected. However, after he took the soul-nourishing pill, his face became brilliant. At first, he was stunned, then he became ecstatic. Immediately after, he sat down cross-legged and didn't speak anymore. This cultivation lasted for 2 hours. Xiao Hua also didn't disturb Li Xiang. He drove the flying carriage down from the sky and flew above the heads of the disciples who were galloping on their horses. Woo-woo. Above Li Xiang's head, a faint buzzing sound could be heard. Then, a whirlwind appeared in midair. The whirlwind grew bigger and bigger, from a few feet wide to several feet wide. Then, the pressure of a yuanying stage cultivator appeared and spread out in all directions. Xiao Hua didn't care, but Li Xiang's disciples below him were overjoyed. One by one, they pulled their horses and waited on the ground. Under Li Xiang's pressure, the horses' hooves trembled, as if they couldn't stand steadily. Hee. Xiao Hua slightly smiled and patted the back of the Pegasus. The Pegasus once again soared into the sky and flew for several hundred feet before stopping. Li Xiang's pressure continued to increase. In the end, even the Pegasus was somewhat uneasy, snorting from its mouth and nose. Xiao Hua slightly frowned, pondering whether he should wake Li Xiang or not. Fortunately, after another moment, Li Xiang slowly opened his eyes. That pressure was immediately absorbed into Li Xiang's Naiwan palace like a falling tide. Congratulations fellow Daoist Li. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Alas, I still have to thank Daoist Master Xiao. Li Xiang couldn't help but sigh again. I underestimated Daoist Master's so-called gold core medicinal pill. It actually has such a strong healing effect on my divine sense. I feel that my divine sense is going to have a breakthrough again. Then I have to congratulate fellow Daoist even more, Xiaohua said. There are still many in the jade bottle, enough for fellow Daoist to use. And I'm now even more curious about fellow Daoist's clearly pill. Li Xiang couldn't help but open the other jade bottle and poured out an equally ugly clearly pill. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Fellow Daoist, you should stay here first. Fellow Daoist's disciple is very concerned about you." These children have really suffered under this Li. Li Xiang's face revealed a smile when he mentioned his disciples. As the heavenly horse landed, Li Xiang and the rest of his disciples were all laughing and congratulating their imperial advisor. In reality, their master's cultivation had recovered. Li Xiang said a few words of encouragement, and everyone continued to move forward. In anticipation, Li Xiang took the Clearly Dan, but this time the Clearly Dan did not give Li Xiang a special surprise. Although the medicinal power of the Clearly Dan was very good, it was just a drop in the bucket for a yuanying stage cultivator. Seeing that Li Xiang had only opened his eyes for a moment, Xiaohua naturally knew that Li Xiang was disappointed. However, he just smiled and didn't say anything. How could he not take a good pill himself? Although he had the metal essence thriving marrow now, he did not dare to give it to Li Xiang. Spiritual items of heaven and earth were not something that ordinary cultivators could use at will. Although Li Xiang's meridians were tough, they were still far from Xiaohua's. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth contained in the metal essence thriving marrow would definitely cause Li Xiang's meridians to collapse like a mountain flood. As for the 5 Qi righteous thunder, not to mention Li Xiang's yuanying, even if Li Xiang used his own life magic treasure, he would not be able to resist it. Wanting to use the 5 Qi righteous thunder to refine his yuanying was simply dreaming. Li Xiang was helpless and could only continue to take the Clearly Dan. After a few days, the Black Cloud Ridge was already in sight. Along the way, there were no pursuers from the Copper Pillar State. Instead, they met a few groups of Confucian cultivators. Confucian cultivators were indeed somewhat different from Daoist disciples. Most of the Confucian cultivators only revealed admiration in their eyes. They took a few more glances at Xiaohua's heavenly horse and flying chariot, but did not look for trouble. Only 2 or 3 people who were obviously reindeer followed for a while. When Xiaohua sighed with emotion, they were frightened by Li Xiang's spiritual sense and fled. This is the Black Cloud Ridge. Although he had yet to reach the Black Cloud Ridge, Li Xiang could not help but release his spiritual sense. After all, Li Xiang naturally knew the original appearance of the Black Cloud Ridge, and even knew about the Black Cloud Ridge's origin stone mines. Furthermore, when he was at the previous Jade Mountain, Xiaohua had already mentioned the Black Cloud Ridge, so how could Li Xiang not be curious? Seeing the current appearance of the Black Cloud Ridge, Li Xiang did not want to be surprised, but he was still surprised. How could this be the Black Cloud Ridge in his impression? Xiaohua laughed and said, "This is naturally not the real Black Cloud Ridge. Fellow Daoist Li, take a closer look." Oh. Li Xiang was slightly startled. He released his spiritual sense again and carefully probed, but after a full meal, Li Xiang suddenly raised his eyebrows, opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he did not say anything. He looked again, and in the end, he sighed deeply and said, "The Daoist master actually set up a great formation in the entire Black Cloud Ridge. This is truly something that I would never have dreamed of. Even the entire Jiang country would not be able to complete it." Ha ha. Xiaohua laughed and urged the heaven horse to descend. Li Xiang suddenly thought of something and hurriedly asked, "Oh right, this Black Cloud Ridge is underground. There seems to be an origin stone mine. Jiang country, Copper Pillar country, and Jia Sa country are mining it separately. Let's not talk about the Copper Pillar country, what about the Jia Sa country?" Naturally, they were chased away by this Xiao. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, previously, the soldiers of the Jiang country had all submitted to the Jia Sa country after the destruction of the Jiang country. Why would I keep them? Oh. Li Xiang nodded absent-mindedly. He finally understood what Xiao Hua meant when he said, I've done a lot of things that make Confucian cultivators jealous. This origin stone mine was probably even more eye-catching than the Zhu family's inheritance, right? Furthermore, Xiao Hua had even openly offended the Jia Sa country, which was the closest to the Black Cloud Ridge and was established by the Buddhist sect. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the Black Cloud Ridge and did not see any spirit demon patrolling, Xiao Hua was a little displeased. He raised his hand and was about to cast a spell when he heard a sharp eagle cry from high up in the sky. Two shadows that were about 3 meters in size descended from the clouds, and the wings of the two birds of prey blocked the sunlight above Xiao Hua and the others. Oh, that's right, there are still 3 demon kings in the Black Cloud Ridge. Li Xiang suddenly realized, could it be that Daoist Master Xiao killed them all? Is this Xiao that cruel? Xiao Hua pinched his chin, looking very innocent. The two birds of prey circled a few times above Xiao Hua's head, and with 2 cries, they descended towards the Black Cloud Ridge. A moment later, the 2 birds of prey charged into the sky again, still hidden behind the clouds. On the Black Cloud Ridge, lights suddenly flashed, and the scene in front of everyone's eyes twisted strangely a few times. From midair to the ground, a crack dozens of meters in size appeared out of nowhere. This crack was like a large door, flowing with light and splendor. The 3 demon kings brought a dozen little demons, and behind them, Qin Xiaoyao, Xiao Jian, Chongling, and the others flew out, respectfully standing on both sides of the door. When Xiao Hua's horse landed, they all bowed and said, Welcome back, Master. Get up, see who's here. Xiao Hua smiled and stood up, helping everyone up, and flew down from the flying carriage with Li Xiang. Junior greets Daoist Master Li. We greet State Preceptor Li. The Black Bear Spirit and the others ignored Li Xiang. Qin Xiaoyao, the Chongling Princess, and the other people of Jiang country were very happy to see Li Xiang, and hurriedly bowed. All of you, get up. Li Xiang waved his hand, looking much more practiced than Xiao Hua. He said with a smile, seeing you all safe and sound, this old man is reassured. Then, Li Xiang bowed to the Chongling Princess alone and said, This Li greets the princess. The Chongling Princess's eyes were slightly red, and she hurriedly returned the greeting. State Preceptor, no need to be so courteous. Chongling is no longer a princess. In the future, I will have to rely on State Preceptor and Master. The Chongling Princess's words naturally had a double meaning, but Li Xiang did not respond. As they spoke, Li Xiang's disciples arrived on their horses. Qin Xiaoyao and the others were very happy, and hurried forward to greet them, helping them down from their horses. Xiaoyao, help arrange for Daoist Master Li's disciples. We will talk in the cave. Xiao Hua looked at the joyful crowd and ordered. Yes, this disciple knows. Qin Xiaoyao immediately answered. Also, Black Bear, prepare a banquet to welcome Daoist Master Li and the others. Yes, this lowly one knows. Old Master, do not worry. The Black Bear Spirit patted his chest, and left with the golden eagle and white lion. Li Xiang looked at the orderly Black Cloud Ridge, and the appearance of the 3 Yao kings. He was filled with curiosity. These Yao could be called kings. Their strength spoke for themselves, and their personalities were unruly. It was easy to kill them, but difficult to make them lower themselves. He did not understand how Xiao Hua had done it. After entering the cave, the people of Black Cloud Ridge took their seats. Lu Yi and Wang Yifei stood on either side of Xiao Hua. Little Silver and the Divine Power Centipede did not go back into the space, and stayed on their shoulders. Li Xiang's seat was not far from Xiao Hua's. It was a guest seat. Li Xiang was very satisfied and sat down as well. Looking at the magnificent cave, he sighed, "Spiritual Master Xiao, I've been to this Black Cloud Ridge before. It was not like this at all. I didn't expect that in Spiritual Master Xiao's hands, it would turn something rotten into something magical. Ha, this is not my doing." Xiao Hua laughed and said, "This is a big gift from Lingqinga." Saying this, Xiao Hua told him about the situation of Lingqinga setting up the array in Black Cloud Ridge, and then briefly described what had happened. Finally, he glanced at the cave and said, "Daoist Master Li, now everything is ready in Black Cloud Ridge. We only need one thing to help Princess Ling establish her country. Can you give me a hand?" This. Li Xiang smiled bitterly, knowing that what was to come would come in the end. Although his cultivation had been restored, many of his disciples had not. Xiao Hua had used this weakness to make him submit, so he really couldn't refuse. However, he didn't want to repeat the same mistakes as before, so he tried to shirk the responsibility. "This matter is of great importance, so let this Li carefully consider it." Chapter 35-63. "And, that's true." Xiao Hua did not care and said with a smile, "When this old man goes to the Jade Pavilion conference, the matter of guarding Black Cloud Ridge is of great importance. Xiao Yao's cultivation is not enough and this old man is worried. So this old man wants to ask fellow Daoist to help this old man. Since fellow Daoist wants to consider, then wait until this old man recovers fellow Daoist disciples' cultivation, and tell this old man when we depart." "Ah." Li Xiang gaped and said curiously, "Daoist? Daoist wants I to help you guard for a few days?" "Yes." "What does fellow Daoist think this old man means by asking fellow Daoist to help this old man?" Xiao Hua pretended to be surprised. "Oh." Li Xiang was slightly confused. He had not expected Xiao Hua's request to be so low that he could not respond. The Chongling princess did not lose the chance to say in a low voice, "Old master, imperial tutor means, oh, this old man understands." Xiao Hua slapped his forehead and said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist Li, do not think too much. This old man is not good at state affairs, and has no experience as an imperial tutor. Chongling once said that they would ask fellow Daoist Li to come out again to be the second imperial tutor of Jiang country. So this old man had Xiao Yao investigate fellow Daoist's whereabouts, and this old man came to Jade Mountain. However, this old man saw that fellow Daoist was not interested in being an imperial tutor, so this old man did not mention it. Whether fellow Daoist Li becomes an imperial tutor has nothing to do with this old man. This will depend on Chongling's charm. This old man will not interfere. Even if fellow Daoist is not willing to stay in Black Cloud Ridge, after the banquet, this old man will immediately help fellow Daoist recover his disciple's cultivation, and fellow Daoist can take his disciple and leave Black Cloud Ridge." With the power of Black Cloud Ridge's formation, this old man believes that Xiao Yao and the others can last until this old man returns from the Jade Pavilion conference. "Old master, do not worry. This disciple is indebted to old master for saving my life, and will not hesitate to die for old master." Qin Xiaoyao hurriedly got up and answered with one knee on the ground. Li Xiang's face burned. He naturally knew that Qin Xiaoyao's words were meant for him to hear, but he couldn't refute it. What Qin Xiaoyao said was the truth. Moreover, Qin Xiaoyao was his junior disciple. If Qin Xiaoyao could say such words, then what should he do with the help of Xiao Hua? Fortunately, without waiting for Li Xiang to think more, Xiao Hua smiled and said, "I understand your thoughts. Everyone has the right to choose. I will never force people. Let's go. I think the banquet at Black Bear's side has already been set up. Today, we will only welcome Jinrenli with a feast. Nothing else." With that, Xiaohua pulled Li Xiang's hand and walked out of the cave. Since ancient times, there had never been a banquet that was not perfect, and there were naturally no guests who did not enjoy themselves. Even the legendary Hongmen banquet was the same, and the Black Cloud Ridge's banquet was no exception. After a night of drinking, the spirit demons were lying all over the mountains and plains, and it was truly unsightly. The soldiers of Jiang country were still considered reserved. In the morning, they faced the morning sun and spat out the old and accepted the new. Taoist Master Xiao. Standing in front of the cave, Li Xiang smiled and said to Xiaohua, Qin Xiaoyao and the others submitting to Taoist Master is not out of my expectations, but the 3 demon kings of the Black Cloud Ridge and their demon soldiers submitting to Taoist Master is out of my expectations. These demons, to be honest, if Taoist Master Xiao does not restrain them enough, it will cause a lot of trouble for Taoist Master. Yes, this Xiao knows. Xiaohua nodded and pointed at the demons, saying, These demons have submitted to this Xiao the most, and have always been in fear. Previously, there was Lingqinga forcing them from behind, and then there was the Confucian cultivators' formation killing them. Recently, I heard from the Black Bear spirit that many Confucian cultivators have begun to have designs on the Black Cloud Ridge. This old man is unwilling to let Qin Xiaoyao and the others go out to face the enemy, so these demons have to take the lead. Although the casualties are not great, these demons need to vent their emotions. A banquet should be useful. Of course, Taoist Master Li's reminder is in my heart. Since these demons have submitted to my fortune gate, this Xiao will definitely restrain them and not harm the hidden immortal continent. Hearing Xiaohua mention the fortune gate, Li Xiang was not surprised. After all, the current Fortune Gate's outer disciples were all Dao cultivators from Jiang country. He had only been in the Black Cloud Ridge for half a day, and he already knew a lot of things. Li Xiang thought for a moment and said, Taoist Master Xiao, this Li has an idea, but I don't know if I should say it. Please speak. Xiaohua laughed. He was eager for Li Xiang to say more. The hidden immortal continent forbids Dao sect disciples from establishing sects, this is public opinion. Although Taoist Master Zhao's cultivation is profound, compared to the accumulation of Confucian cultivators who have been passed down for who knows how many years, there is still a big gap. Li Xiang did not hide anything and said, Taoist Master Xiao certainly wants to establish a Dao sect, but in a situation where we cannot fight against the entire hidden immortal continent, it is very inappropriate to rashly bring up the Fortune Gate. Oh. Then what does Taoist Master think? Xiaohua frowned, his face full of worry. Li Xiang laughed and said, since it is not allowed to establish a sect, then take charge of a country. Now that Jiang country has been destroyed, if Taoist Master Xiao establishes Jiang country again, naturally you can name it Fortune country. You can even call it Xiao country. Taoist Master Xiao is building this country into an empire, with vast territory. Taoist Master Li. Xiaohua interrupted Li Xiang's words, shaking his head and saying, this Xiao has already promised the Chongling princess to help her restore her country. Wouldn't doing this chill her heart? This Xiao also become a person who goes back on his words. That's even simpler. Li Xiang laughed and said, Taoist Master Xiao can just support another country. Yes, that's true. Xiaohua woke from a dream, slapped his forehead, but then he grimaced. The problem isn't controlling a country different from a sect? There has to be a country ruler. If there is a country ruler, wouldn't there be a rift between us? Li Xiang laughed and said, use Taoist Master Zhao's own bloodline to be the country ruler. This Xiao country is justified. Forget it, let's talk about it later. As Xiaohua spoke, he actually walked into the trap. He simply waved his hand and said, this Xiao made a sect to simplify things, to be a hands-off shopkeeper. Now that I heard Taoist Master Li say that he also wants to marry and have children, wouldn't that be troublesome? Ha ha ha. Li Xiang also laughed. The two spoke a few more words. Seeing the sun rise from the mountain peak, Xiaohua smiled and said, Daoist Masterly, send a disciple up. You and I will see how to help them recover their cultivation. All right. Li Xiang saw that Xiaohua was so straightforward and was happy in his heart. He transmitted his voice, and not long after, a Jindan disciple came up. Xiaohua took Li Xiang and the disciple into the quiet room. Xiaohua only slightly checked the injury and already understood that this disciple's Jindan was broken, his lower dantian was pierced by the sword qi of the Confucian cultivator, and some of the meridians in his body were also cut off by the sword qi. As long as the meridians and dantian were repaired, Jindan would not be difficult. So Xiaohua pretended to discuss with Li Xiang for a moment, took out the heaven-mending pill, explained to Li Xiang how to use it, and let Li Xiang help his disciple. Li Xiang looked at the pill in his hand, his mouth bitter. How could he not understand that as long as he had this heaven-mending pill, why would he need to do it himself? Why would Xiaohua need to discuss with him? He really couldn't understand. How many elixirs could Xiaohua have in this small Qinquan bag? After the disciple took the heaven-mending pill, Li Xiang used his divine sense to explore for a moment. He knew that the heaven-mending pill's effect was godly, and it was repairing the meridians and dantian at a speed visible to the naked eye. But then, Li Xiang worriedly asked, Daoist Master Xiao, this pill is really miraculous, but do you know how many? Enough. Seeing this, Xiaohua simply clapped his hand, and a sufficient number of jade bottles were sent in front of Li Xiang. Li Xiang was so shocked that a walnut could be stuffed in his mouth. A single heaven-mending pill was already incomparably precious, but Xiaohua actually gave him dozens of pills the moment he opened his mouth. Too much. Li Xiang muttered. His raised hand was as heavy as 1,000 catties. The jade bottles were easy to put away, but his heart was too heavy. No matter. Xiaohua said with a smile, everyone in Black Cloud Ridge is more precious than this pill. Hearing Xiaohua's words that did not treat him as an outsider, and thinking back to Qin Haoyue's guarded appearance, Li Xiang's heart was somewhat shaken. Daoist Masterly, you help the disciples recover their cultivation here. I will go take a look at the source stone mine. Xiaohua stood up and said with a smile, that is the vital point of Black Cloud Ridge, we cannot lose it. After saying this, without waiting for Li Xiang to speak, Xiaohua stood up and walked out of the quiet room. Outside the quiet room, Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei stood below the high platform, both sitting cross-legged with their eyes slightly closed. Wang Bianfei was somewhat lively as he scurried around, but the god power centipede was quite well behaved as it lay on the ground, the black qi around its body expanding and contracting as if it was breathing, as if it was cultivating. Seeing this, Xiaohua smiled mightily. With a wave of his hand, Little Silver and the god power centipede both flew onto his shoulder. Then, Xiaohua rode a magic cloud and flew towards the source stone mine. Fortunately, although many of the demons in the front mountain had not yet sobered up, the entrance to the source stone mine was guarded by a white lion. From time to time, demons would enter and exit the mine, and it looked like they were mining source stones. Seeing Xiaohua fly over, the white lion immediately came over and respectfully greeted him, Greetings, Master. Rise. White Lion. Xiaohua said with a smile, Why are you up so early? Didn't you drink last night? Hearing Xiaohua mention wine, the white lion unconsciously stuck out its scarlet tongue and licked its lips. Smiling, it said, Master, of course this little one drank. However, this little one felt that the spirit wine that Master bestowed upon this little one was rather rare, so I left some for my subordinates who profited from it. I didn't enjoy much of it myself. Moreover, it's this little one's turn to be on duty today. This little one didn't dare to delay Master's matters, so I came early. Good. Xiaohua was very happy to hear this. Although the black bear spirit was loyal, it was really lazy and especially timid. This white lion, on the other hand, seemed to be a cautious and attentive one. Saying this, Xiaohua flipped his hand and took out a jade pot, handing it to the white lion. This is a reward from this old man. The spirit wine in Xiaohua's space was now brewed by Xiaoguo out of boredom. The wine's fragrance assailed the nostrils, and the color was sparkling and translucent. It was who knew how many times better than the wine brewed by ordinary cultivators. No wonder a demon like the white lion was greedy. Chapter 35-64. Thank you for your reward, Master. White Lion was overjoyed and received the wine with both hands. His Adam's apple unconsciously gulped a few times. How's the situation at the elemental stone mine? Xiaohua asked after White Lion kept the wine. White Lion explained the situation of the elemental stone mine in detail. Xiaohua actually didn't know how the real elemental stone mine was mined, but hearing White Lion's orderly explanation, he nodded repeatedly. White Lion was even more delighted to see Xiaohua's approval. After White Lion finished speaking, he saw a few more demons coming out of the cave with cloth bags and other items in their hands. When they reached a place not far from the cave, they shook their hands and opened the cloth bags. A large pile of bones tumbled out. Xiaohua frowned and scanned with his divine sense. His expression changed unconsciously, and he said in a cold voice, "White Lion, what's with this pit full of bones?" "Oh, reporting to Master." White Lion wasn't afraid and smiled. These were all cleared out from the elemental stone mine. I'm afraid that the mine soldiers of the three kingdoms died in the mine and were casually thrown in here. When we saw these bones while mining, we told Big Brother. Big Brother knows that Master is kind and likes cleanliness, so he asked us to clear these bones out and place them in this pit. When the time comes, we'll bury them all. Good, you've worked hard. Xiaohua patted White Lion's shoulder and encouraged, I'll go find some cultivation methods that demons can cultivate and teach you in the future. Thank you, Master. White Lion was excited and immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Although they were demon kings, in reality, they were just small leaders of the demons. They relied on their talent and didn't have any particularly complete cultivation methods. Wanting to improve their strength was simply a dream. White Lion had a deep understanding of Xiaohua's cultivation. Moreover, in Xiaohua's eyes, there was no difference between demons and humans. Since he said that he would guide them in their cultivation, he would naturally guide them. This was much more practical than some kind of spiritual wine or any so-called bestowment. Get up. Xiaohua says with a smile, this old man is just talking about it now. This old man doesn't even know where to find the cultivation technique that the evil spirit cultivates. Speaking up to this point, Xiaohua's mind flashed as he came to a realization. That's right, the Copper Pillar Nation star-plucking tower, other nations must also have their own auctions. My Black Cloud Ridge has an elemental or mine, why would I be afraid of not being able to find cultivation techniques? Baisher, tell He Xiong about this, and then discuss it with Qin Xiaoyao or Xiao Jian. Let them send some disciples out to bid. Yes, I understand. Baisher replied respectfully. Soon after, Xiaohua entered the essence stone mine and went to the deepest part. He collected more essence stones before coming up. In just a dozen days, Xiaohua's mind and primordial spirit had improved greatly. The amount of essence stones he collected was more than 10% more than the previous time. While Xiaohua was overjoyed, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. The effect of this secret technique far surpassed any secret technique he had ever seen. He really didn't know where Do Shanjun had obtained this mysterious secret technique. Could it be that my appearance can't compare to that guy's, and my character can't compare to his? After Xiaohua cursed in his heart, he flew to the front of Dao Shan's tomb. Dao Shan's tomb already had weeds, but fortunately, when the 5-brocade cloud diagram array bombarded the Black Cloud Ridge, this place was not affected too much, and the tomb was still there. Xiaohua squatted down, extended his hand, and pulled out the weeds near the tomb one by one. He stared at the small tomb for a long time, as if he was thinking about something, but also as if he was comprehending something. After half a day, he finally stood up and flew towards the cave. However, before he could reach the cave, Xiaohua stopped again. He saw that not far from the cave was a military camp, and on the east side of the military camp was a hill that wasn't too steep. Right now, there was a person holding an axe and dancing on the side of the hill. Who else could this person be other than Yuanya? Xiaohua watched for a moment, and saw that Yuanya's axe technique was extremely methodical. It was obvious that someone had taught him. He couldn't help but smile, and descended from the sky. Yuanya was the first person he saw in the hidden immortal continent. Now that there were many people in the Black Cloud Ridge, Xiaohua didn't have time to care about Yuanya. Previously, he had asked Lui once, but there was no news. Dao. Master. Hearing the commotion, Yuanya put away the demon axe, hurriedly bowed and called out. It seemed that he was going to call him Daoist Master, but when he was about to say it, he changed his words. Looking at Yuanya, Xiaohua was quite emotional. People would always change. It had only been a little more than a year. A young man who was lying on a tree in the Jiangchao temple and peeking at him practicing his fist techniques, now knew how to deal with people and adapt to changes. Yeah, how are you now? Xiaohua said with a smile. Master, this one is very well. Yuanya did not speak much, and his answers were very proper. Xiaohua knew Yuanya's personality and asked, what about Chongling? How is her and your master's plan to revive the country? Why are you not with her? Master, Chongling and Master are working day and night, and have sent out many soldiers, and also issued many orders. Looking at Chongling, it seems to be going smoothly. The smile on her face is increasing. As to the exact extent, this one does not know. This one can only cultivate as much as possible so that I can protect her on the battlefield in the future. Who taught you this axe technique? It looks very good. Xiaohua asked with interest. General Kong Li taught me. Xiaohua chatted with Yuanya for a while, and then asked probingly, that Chongling still does not admit that she is Jia Wu. You did not think that you were mistaken. At the mention of Jia Wu, Yuanya was slightly bashful. He said with a smile, Master, this one will not be mistaken. However, right now, Chongling is focused on reviving the country. This one cannot distract her. After Jiang country revives, let's talk about it. You are very right. Xiaohua nodded and then said, however, you also need to focus on cultivating and protecting Chongling for Elder Mo. If there is nothing, you need to be by her side. You may not be able to ask about her well-being, but if you see her unhappy, you can think of ways to make her happy. Master, this one does not understand. Yuanya's face was slightly red as he answered honestly. Xiaohua was speechless and said helplessly, all right, you should cultivate. If you have any questions about cultivation, you can ask Qin Xiaoyao, or Lu Yi. If that does not work, come find this old man. All right, Master, Yuanya answered. This one has nothing to ask for now. All right then. Xiaohua knew that it was boring to talk to Yuanya, but he had not expected it to be even more boring now. He could only wave his hand and fly into the air. Yuanya did not respectfully send Master off like the black bear spirit. He looked at Xiaohua's back and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, a smile from the bottom of his heart. When he returned to the residence, only Li Xiang was sitting cross-legged in the seclusion room. His disciples were gone. They must have taken the sky-mending pill and been chased out by Li Xiang. Seeing Xiaohua return, Li Xiang hurriedly stood and took out several jade bottles. He said with a smile, this one's disciples have taken Daoist Zhao's spirit pills. These are the remaining ones. Daoist, please accept them. Daoistly, there is no need to be so courteous with this one. Xiaohua waved his hand, resolutely refusing to accept. Our friendship is still shallow. You don't know this, but this Xiao will never let go of anything that falls into this Xiao's hands, and this Xiao will never accept anything that this Xiao gives away. Alright, since Daoist Xiao is so straightforward, then this one will accept. Li Xiang did not say much. He put away the jade bottles and said, Daoist Xiao, this one and my disciples are indebted to you for saving our lives. Moreover, this one and my disciples have not fully recovered, so it is not safe for us to go elsewhere. Therefore, this one has decided to accept Daoist Xiao's invitation and stay in the Black Cloud Ridge for a while until Daoist Xiao returns from the Jade Pavilion gathering. Good. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, Thank you, Daoist Li, however, I still have a condition. Li Xiang said with a straight face. Xiaohua was stunned and said curiously, Daoist Li, please speak. If this one can satisfy you, this one will definitely agree. The spirit wine that Daoist Xiao took out yesterday tasted very good. This one does not have many hobbies, but I like to taste wine. Li Xiang blinked and said, If Daoist Xiao asks this one to stay, then I will need a jar of spirit wine every day. No problem. Xiaohua did not expect Li Xiang to joke with him. He clapped his hands and took out a few jade bottles and said with a smile, Daoist Li, please taste these first. When this one goes to the Jade Pavilion gathering, I will leave behind enough spirit wine. Thank you. Li Xiang did like the spirit wine, but fundamentally speaking, it was just an excuse. Why would he care if Xiaohua took out more spirit wine? He reached out to take the spirit wine and agreed to the matter. Soon after, Xiaohua sat down again. He waved his hand and took out a row of magic tools. He said with a smile, Not only the spirit wine, this one also has some magic tools. Daoist Li, please take a look. Which ones are suitable for your disciples? Li Xiang was startled. Any cultivator's magic tool, if it wasn't bestowed by their masters, then it was obtained by their own luck. Gifts from others were extremely rare. For someone like Xiaohua, who gave away a pile of magic tools in one go, other than those unrated magic tools used by Dao soldiers, which cultivator's magic tools could be given away like this? If Xiaohua regarded his disciples as Daoist soldiers, wouldn't that be slapping his own face? However, Li Xiang knew that Xiaohua was not such a mean person. Moreover, with a sweep of his divine sense, he immediately knew the rarity of these magic tools. Li Xiang hurriedly stood up and waved his hand, saying, Daoist Xiao, this one and this one's disciples have received too much help from Daoist Xiao. Why don't Daoist keep these magic tools in your hands and wait for a fated person in the future? Daoist Li, what is fated? What is not fated? Xiaohua said with a smile, Daoist Xiao's disciples meeting this one is fated. This one has these magic tools in his hands is fated. Why is Daoist Xiao so polite? Alas, okay. Li Xiang casually picked up a magic tool and looked at it carefully. He found that this magic tool was definitely refined by a great refiner. It was far better than what he had seen before. Of course, he was not willing to let his disciples lose this opportunity, so he could only grit his teeth and agree. Chapter 35-65. Xiaohua smiled and said, It's a pity that I don't have the magic treasure you want, and I'm afraid that none of your Jindan disciples are suitable. My magic treasure was taken away by Ling Qingge. I'm afraid it's sealed somewhere in the Bronze Pillar State. Li Xiang smiled bitterly, After I recover my cultivation, I'll go to the Bronze Pillar State and maybe I can get it. As for my useless Jindan disciples, let them find a few magic treasures to use first. Xiaohua nodded. You can tell Xiao Yao about this and let him go to the auction to buy some suitable magic treasures. I know. Li Xiang nodded, and then Xiaohua asked Lu Yi to call in Li Xiang's many disciples. Each disciple chose a magic treasure. These disciples, including the Jin Dan disciples, all had joy in their eyes. They all bowed and thanked Xiaohua. After the disciples left, Li Xiang returned the rest of the magic treasures to Xiaohua and said, Xinren Xiao, I heard you say that you're going to the Yaotai gathering. How much do you know about it? Xiaohua slightly shakes his head. I know very little about the Yaotai gathering. Other than knowing that we Taoist cultivators must participate in the Yaotai gathering if we want to be teachers of a country, here is the approximate location of the Yaotai gathering. Li Xiang nodded, looked at Xiaohua and said word by word, if I hadn't been to the Black Cloud Ridge before, maybe I would have advised you to go to the Yaotai gathering. But look at the current situation of the Black Cloud Ridge, look at Jinren Zhao's spirit of killing the state preceptor of the Bronze Pillar State, and I heard that Jinren Zhao also erected a Daoist stone tablet in the Bronze Pillar State. I advise you not to go to the Yaotai gathering and walk into a trap. Ah! Xiaohua was shocked. He knew that Li Xiang was the state preceptor of the Li Kingdom and must have participated in the Yaotai gathering. He wanted to ask for advice, but he didn't expect Li Xiang to advise him not to go. He also said that the Yaotai gathering was a trap, which really confused him. What does Shinrenli mean? Xiaohua asked in a low voice. To tell you the truth, Shinren Xiao, when I went to the Yaotai gathering to fight for the position of the state preceptor, I had the same idea as Shinren Xiao. I wanted to be an influential figure on the hidden immortal continent and make achievements that no one before me could achieve. Li Xiang's eyes flashed with a trace of fanaticism, as if he was recalling his glorious days. However, this fanaticism disappeared in a flash, followed by helplessness and bitterness. It's a pity that we took the wrong path from the beginning. How could we reach the peak if the direction was wrong? Xiaohua looked at Li Xiang with a smile and didn't interrupt him. Li Xiang looked like he was in his 20s. Presumably, he had altered his appearance after reaching the nascent soul stage. However, from his tone, he seemed to have experienced a lot. Xiaohua also knew that Li Xiang was a person with a story and had more experience than him. Calmly listening to his thoughts would be of great benefit to him. Daoist Master Xiao isn't the first person to walk the path of Taoism on the continent of Confucian cultivators, and he definitely won't be the last. Li Xiang opened his mouth again. Once upon a time, this Li also had the same idea. I wanted to establish a Daoist sect, raise Daoist cultivators, become the master of a country, and build a Daoist empire. Unfortunately, the Yaotai gathering pushed this Li to the bottom of the valley. Although this Li was lucky enough to obtain the lot to establish a country, the Li country's downfall made this Li completely lose the heart to contend for hegemony. What's going on with the Yaotai gathering? Xiaohua's brows furrowed even tighter. What Qin Xiaoyao said before was originally unclear. Xiaohua thought it would be enough for him to go take a look and register with his own cultivation. Who knew? It would be so troublesome. Xiaohua couldn't help but ask. What exactly is the Yaotai gathering like? It seems to be different every time. The Yaotai gathering that Qin Haoyue and this Li participated in was different. After all, 10 years of planning is enough for the Immortal Palace to come up with many sinister ideas to kill nascent Daoist cultivators. Even if this Li told you, it might not be useful. It might even be harmful to you. Li Xiang shook his head and said, with Daoist Master Zhao's cultivation, it's best not to participate in it. Ah! 10 years. The Immortal Palace. Xiaohua was shocked. He asked curiously, Qin Xiaoyao said it's once every 5 years. How did it become 10 years? Moreover, isn't this a matter of the Confucian cultivators of the hidden immortal continent? How is it related to the Immortal Palace? Besides, as far as this Xiao knows, the Immortal Palace doesn't intervene in the specific affairs of the hidden Immortal Continent. Li Xiang sneered, what Daoist Master Xiao knows is just the tip of the iceberg outside the glacier. Under the glacier, how can ordinary people know the full picture of the iceberg? The hidden Immortal Continent is the continent of Confucian cultivators, and the Immortal Palace is the holy land of Confucian cultivators. If the Immortal Palace doesn't control the hidden Immortal Continent, could it be that the Lane Temple controls the hidden Immortal Continent? 5 years is a very long time for ordinary people, but for cultivators, it's just a blink of an eye. How can cultivators grow up? Only once every 10 years can the Immortal Palace harvest their energy. Xiao Hua instantly understood a little. He narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, so, this Xiao understands. The so-called Yaotai Gathering is a grand event for the Immortal Palace to strangle the kindling of Taoism, and the position of the state preceptor is the bait. Since that's the case, why? Yes, since you know it's the bait, why hasn't Daoist Master Xiao dispelled the idea of participating at this time? Li Xiang said with a smile, it's because this bait is really tempting. Of course, we can't rule out that many Taoism disciples don't know the inside story. Even this Li doesn't have any real evidence. Everything is just this Li's own speculation. Lucky thoughts, considerable expectations, unbearable curiosity, all make people overlook the potential danger. Xiao Hua nodded and sighed. Daoist Master Xiao, have you heard of the Yaoqi Gathering? Li Xiang suddenly asked. Xiao Hua shook his head, this Xiao is rather ignorant and inexperienced. Previously, I was concentrating on cultivation, so I really don't know about this. It's said that as long as a Confucian cultivator can cultivate to the sage realm, they can receive the invitation of Emperor Go Qin and Empress Dongming to participate in the Heavenly Bestowal Banquet. Because this Heavenly Bestowal Banquet is held at Empress Dongming's Yaoqi Pool, it's also called the Yaoqi Gathering. Li Xiang explained, participating in the Yaoqi Gathering means that the Confucian cultivator has an extraordinary status and has obtained the recognition of the Heavenly Palace. And the Yaotai Gathering imitates the Yaoqi Gathering. As long as a Daoist cultivator participates in the Yaotai Gathering, they can be considered to have obtained the recognition of Confucian cultivators, which is to say, the Heavenly Palace. This kind of idea of learning both civil and martial arts and selling them to the imperial family is actually the idea of Confucian cultivators. When it's put on the heads of Taoism cultivators, it's already changing the concept of cultivators. Li Xiang said again, actually, Daoist Master, think about it again. As a country's teacher, participating in the affairs of the country, isn't it the Confucian cultivators' way of entering the world? It's completely different from the emergence of our Taoism. If Daoist Master becomes the state teacher, isn't it because you've fallen into the scheme of Confucian cultivators? How can you still have time to cultivate? How can you still improve your cultivation? Of course, on the hidden Immortal Continent, it's forbidden to trade high-level Daoist cultivation techniques. However, in the Yaotai Gathering, there are high-level Daoist cultivation techniques as rewards. Daoist Master can certainly obtain this high-level Daoist cultivation technique, but Daoist Master will also become a delicious cake in the eyes of other Daoist cultivators. They'll constantly probe and harass you. How can Daoist Master cultivate calmly? Li Xiang finally spoke his true thoughts. He was advising Xiao Hua to give up the idea of establishing a country. Hiss. Xiao Hua inhaled sharply. He knew that this was what Li Xiang and the imperial preceptor had seen through. This was also the overt scheme of the Immortal Palace. The brilliance of the Immortal Palace was that 1, they used the competition of the Yaotai Gathering to cut off a portion of Daoist cultivators. 2. They used the name of the imperial preceptor to assimilate a portion of Daoist cultivators. 3. In the competition between countries, Daoist cultivators would fight with Daoist cultivators. 4. They used high-level Daoist cultivation techniques as bait to once again lure Daoist cultivators to kill each other. With such heavy killing, no wonder the hidden immortal continent did not have Daoist cultivators. Different from the Dawn Rain continent, the hidden immortal continent's Daoist sects were still not flourishing. Li Xiang really was sincerely trying to dissuade Xiao Hua. Unfortunately, when he saw Xiao Hua's expression change from astonishment to calmness, he smiled bitterly again. As long as it was a cultivator, which one of them wasn't a person with a firm will? How could they change their mind based on a few words from others? It seems that Daoist Master Xiao still plans to go to the Yaotai gathering. Li Xiang asked softly. Xiao Hua nodded. Yes, I did not know that the Yaotai gathering was so particular, and rashly agreed to Chongling. Since I have spoken, I cannot go back on it. I must go. Also, I said that I want to establish a sect. If I do not have the mind to move forward, and have to avoid even a small Yaotai gathering, how can I stand in the world? Li Xiang shook his head slightly. Hadn't he said such bold words decades ago? Humans, even if they were cultivators, would never give up unless they hit a wall and got a big bump on their head. The Yaotai gathering is held at Yaotai Mountain. It is controlled by an organization called Star Sovereign Hall. The present master of Star Sovereign Hall should be called Kong Hongwu, and is a disciple of a first-class scholarly family. This Star Sovereign Hall is said to belong to the scholarly cultivators of the hidden immortal continent, but I do not know who controls it. At the Yaotai gathering, other than the Imperial Tutor's lot, there are also some rare treasures of Yaotai Mountain. Anyone who attends the Yaotai gathering can obtain them. Every few times, Star Sovereign Hall will take out some rare treasures of the hidden immortal continent, and put them on Yaotai Mountain for my sect disciples to fight over. On the surface, it looks generous, but in reality, it is to have my sect disciples kill each other. Back then, let's not talk about it. This is my impression of the Yaotai gathering. Li Xiang sighed, and took out the jade eye he had prepared long ago. He handed it to Xiao Hua and said, I know that Daoist Master is far stronger than I was back then, but Daoist Master must remember, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. You must be low-key. Back then at the Yaotai gathering, none of the cultivators who were stronger than I could get the Imperial Tutor's lot. Heh, this is my specialty. Xiao Hua took the jade eye and answered with a smile. He did not ask more about Star Sovereign Hall and the treasures. If Li Xiang knew, he would remember it in the jade eye. If Li Xiang did not know, it was useless to ask. Chapter 3566. In addition, Daoists shouldn't bring Lu Yi and the others. Li Xiang suggested again, their cultivation, not to mention me. Even Xiao Yao can guide them. It's quite troublesome for Daoists to bring them along. Good. Xiao Hua clapped his hands, then I'll have to trouble Daoist Li, Daoist Xiao, I've learned a lot from you. It's only right for me to do something for you. Li Xiang was helpless towards Xiao Hua's clapping. After all, he was also a nascent soul cultivator. How could he teach two disciples who had just started cultivating? But it seemed that Xiao Hua seemed to enjoy it. Thus, Li Xiang had to hit the nail on the head. Daoist, remember, if something goes wrong, immediately run away. Well said. Xiao Hua smiled. I don't dare to boast about other cultivation, but in terms of running away, if I say I'm second, no one dares to say they're first. Soon after, Xiao Hua called everyone over and made some arrangements. He sat on a flying carriage pulled by a Pegasus and flew out of the Black Cloud Ridge. Everyone shouted and respectfully sent their master off. However, Li Xiang's face was very unhappy. He almost wanted to chase after Xiao Hua and ask, where did the low-key go? The Pegasus shone brightly, wouldn't it be discovered from far away? At this time, how could Xiao Hua still think about low-key? What he cared about was whether he could smoothly reach the Yaotai assembly. The reason why he brought Lu Yi and Wang Yifei along was not to guide them in their cultivation, but to identify the direction and help him find the so-called Jade Pavilion without taking any unnecessary detours. Li Xiang's jade eyes naturally had the location of the Yaotai assembly and the names of the countries around it. However, Li Xiang also made it clear in the jade eyes that he participated in the Yaotai assembly nearly 100 years ago. He didn't know whether these countries still existed or not. The jade eyes mentioned some taboos that Xiao Hua wanted to pay attention to. It was nothing more than keeping a low profile and being on guard. What puzzled Xiao Hua the most was that Li Xiang told him to pay special attention to Daoist cultivators. On the contrary, he didn't say much about Confucian cultivators. This Li Xiang. Xiao Hua withdrew his jade eyes and thought, I'm afraid that once bitten, twice shy. If it's Xiaoyu continent, everyone is Daoist cultivators, killing each other is not uncommon. But in the hidden immortal continent, Daoist cultivators, after all, are in the minority. If they can join hands, they'll be together. Otherwise, they'll be alone, wouldn't fall into the scheme of Daoist cultivators. However, just as he sat down cross-legged and was about to cultivate, a thought appeared in his mind. Oh, so that's how it is. I understand. What Li Xiang wanted to say was that the Dao sect cultivators on the hidden immortal continent had limited resources for cultivation, and these limited resources had to be obtained by the Dao sect cultivators themselves. Naturally, they had to guard against each other. Even though some Daoist cultivators practiced Daoist techniques, they were backed by Confucian cultivators, and even had the support of the Immortal Palace. They were people who sold dog meat under false pretenses. Naturally, they would be ruthless to the orthodox Daoist cultivators. Daoists say it, teet teet teet, it looks like, you still don't trust this Xiao. In fact, if Li Xiang was like this, it wasn't that he didn't trust Xiao Hua. After all, Li Xiang didn't really understand Xiao Hua. Speaking up to this point, it was already very clear. If he said it too bluntly, it might directly insinuate the relationship between Xiao Hua and Li Xiang. If Xiao Hua had a suspicious heart like Qin Haoyue, wouldn't Li Xiang have made an enemy? Xiao Hua sat on the flying carriage, free and unfettered. Now, he took out the small bone that Zhu Qing gave him. First, he looked at it carefully, then he released his soul consciousness. He took it for granted that since it was a bone, it must be a soul cultivator's bone. Xiao Hua himself was also curious as to why the Zhu family was related to soul cultivators. In fact, this was the real reason why Xiao Hua wanted to visit the Zhu family, not what Li Xiang said. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua was wrong. The small bone didn't have any reaction in his soul consciousness. Xiao Hua couldn't read anything from the bone. Oh. Don't tell me, this thing isn't a bone. Xiao Hua was astonished. He then used his soul consciousness and clear eyes technique to investigate, but to no avail. Helpless, Xiao Hua opened his Dharma eye. Similarly, the bone in his Dharma eye was empty, without any trace. That's strange. Xiao Hua stroked his chin, puzzled. Don't tell me I was deceived by Zhu Qing. Was this a scheme to transplant flowers for a tree? No, the Zhu family is afraid of the copper pillar state, so how could they not be afraid of me? Xiao Hua shook his head again. That's right, Buddhist sense. Suddenly, Xiao Hua had a kind of understanding in his heart. Zhu Xi was a great Confucian cultivator. If he wanted to leave behind the teachings of his ancestors, others would definitely think that Zhu Xi would use the methods of a Confucian cultivator. However, Zhu Xi did the opposite and used the secret technique of a Buddhist sect. This was definitely unexpected by others, right? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua released his Buddhist sense. Sure enough, there were some faint spots on the bone. However, with Xiao Hua's current Buddhist sense cultivation, he couldn't really see these spots. Finally, Xiao Hua sent the bone into his Naiwan palace. Under the Buddhist light of the Buddha Sarira, Xiaohua could see clearly that there were two prophecies on the bone. The ancestral tree is like the innate qi, the family tree is like the silk of the younger generation. Damn it, Zhu Shi is a saint. How could he leave behind something so unclear? It looks symmetrical but doesn't have any charm. Xiaohua looked at it again and again, puzzled. He couldn't help but curse. Even if that bastard Zhu Qing made this thing public, what could he do? He wanted to make it public, but Zhu Shi was too ruthless. Even his own descendants couldn't see what was left in the bone. What heavenly book truth? It's more like the heavenly book mystery. Xiaohua now knew how to read the heavenly book. Moreover, he had already cultivated the 5 qis unifications. He didn't care about this heavenly book truth. He casually put the bone into his space. With a wave of his hand, a scroll appeared in his hand. He was going to read it carefully. Suddenly, a thunderous voice rang in his ears, "Fellow Daoist, this humble Daoist greets you." Ah! Xiaohua shivered and hurriedly looked around. However, he saw that in the sky, there was nothing but astral wind. There wasn't any divine sense. "Fellow Daoist, can you come in for a chat?" Just as Xiaohua was puzzled, the voice impatiently sounded in Xiaohua's ear again. "Oh, it's the bone-honing Xiaohua." Hearing this impatient voice, Xiaohua immediately understood and hurriedly sent his divine sense into his body. Sure enough, the bone-honing Xiaohua had already stopped practicing the Big Dipper divine fist. The golden light on his head was radiating in all directions. The yellow brilliance around his body was also glaring. In particular, the aura of desolation was even thicker. His figure was also much taller than before. Facing such a bone-honing Xiaohua, Jade Archive Xiaohua felt powerless. He helplessly cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Daoist, why did you call I here? I just want to ask you, do you still want to cultivate the light escape?" Only this bone-honing Xiaohua was so impolite to Jade Archive Xiaohua. Xiaohua was stunned. He scratched his head and asked curiously, "What do you mean, fellow Daoist? The light escape is the goal that I pursue. How can I not cultivate it? What the hell are you cultivating for?" Bone-honing Xiaohua's voice seemed to reverberate between heaven and earth. "You found the exquisite pagoda for the Buddha Sarira, as well as the 10,000 Buddha diagram and the Mahavirocana Buddhist edict. You found the 5 Qi thunder and the heavenly book for the Confucian cultivator Xiaohua. You found the 9 heaven spirit origin and the little white dragon for the soul cultivator Xiaohua. You found the dragon transformation art for the dragon vein Xiaohua. You even found the blood drop paradise and the devil qi for the devil spirit cultivator Xiaohua. What did you find for me? Is it this devil blade?" While speaking, bone-honing Xiaohua waved his left hand. The devil blade that seemed to grow on his left arm flashed with a pitch-black brilliance. "Doesn't fellow Daoist have the Big Dipper divine fist?" Jade Archive Xiaohua asked curiously. "I remember, there is also the bone-honing technique of the Sunset Island." "Damn, when did the Big Dipper divine fist happen? Are you going to use it for the rest of your life?" Bone-honing Xiaohua shouted angrily, "I'm cultivating the Big Dipper divine fist because I'm too bored and playing around. The Big Dipper divine fist is no longer effective." Ah! Jade Archive Xiaohua was shocked, but he understood in a flash. He nodded and said, "That's right, I overlooked this." Bone-honing Xiaohua again exclaimed in disappointment, "Also, the bone-honing technique of the Sunset Island is somewhat effective now, but you should be cultivating it. Why are you holding that bullshit scroll and reading it every day for no reason? Can that thing let you cultivate the light escape technique? Actually, even the bone-honing technique of the Sunset Island has a time when it becomes ineffective. You should also look for a follow-up to that heavenly laws embodiment technique of yours. You can't let me be idle. Moreover, if you don't find a suitable technique, this devil blade of mine will never be removed, and you'll always have a devil hand. That. Jade Archive Xiaohua frowned and said, what if I use the 5 Qi righteous thunder to help fellow Daoist temper your bones? Is that possible? Of course it's possible to use the 5 Qi righteous thunder. If it's the thunder water in the space, that would be the best. Bone Honing Xiaohua saw that Jade Archive Xiaohua was very sensible, and his tone became somewhat gentle. I understand. Jade Archive Xiaohua nodded. This thunder water is beyond I's ability to use outside the body, but I can still do it inside the body. Moreover, fellow Daoist is one with the space, so you should be able to do it. However, this thunder water is too overbearing. Is fellow Daoist sure it's possible? Fellow Daoist is looking down on me too much. Bone Honing Xiaohua sneered proudly. The golden light around his body flourished, and the strange rune on his forehead made Jade Archive Xiaohua's heart tremble in shock. Perhaps fellow Daoist doesn't even know what the light escape technique is. Fellow Daoist knows, but I don't know. Could it be that fellow Daoist knows what I don't know? Jade Archive Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bone Honing Xiaohua really thought too highly of himself. Fellow Daoist knows, but fellow Daoist doesn't necessarily think too much. If I don't say it, you may not realize it. Bone Honing Xiaohua's bell-like laughter rang out. Chapter 3567. Bone Honing Xiaohua smiled and explained, fellow Daoist was able to freely use the Devil Realm's concealment technique because of fellow Daoist's Big Dipper God Fist. The Big Dipper God Fist should be the Devil Realm's bone tempering technique. The Sunset Island's bone tempering technique originated from the Desolate Era and should belong to the Giant Clan. The Heavenly Law's embodiment technique and the bone tempering technique you obtained from Yellow Flower Ridge should be related to the Monster Clan. However, I can't casually practice this bone tempering technique right now. I have to wait until the Sunset Island's bone tempering technique completely tempers me. I understand. Jade Archive Xiaohua nodded. One light into 7 colors hide all things. What we need to do now is to use the 7 colors to combine into one light. To be sheltered in the light, we have to go through the 7 bone tempering techniques and use the 5 elements to change the foundation of the bones. However, the 5 elements don't seem to be able to reach 7. I don't know about this. Bone Honing Xiaohua replied, I only know that only by tempering the 7 colors can I change my foundation and fellow Daoist can be sheltered in the light. As for what the last source is, it will depend on fellow Daoist's luck. I understand. Jade Archive Xiaohua closed his eyes and pondered. His figure instantly disappeared and reappeared in front of the damaged immortal beheading stage. Looking at the rumbling thunder water, Jade Archive Xiaohua stretched out his hand and a strand of thread-like thunder water fell from the gap of the immortal beheading stage. Then, Jade Archive Xiaohua flicked his finger and one end of the thunder water disappeared in midair along with Jade Archive Xiaohua's figure. It was as if Jade Archive Xiaohua was holding the thunder water. Jade Archive Xiaohua appeared in front of Bone Honing Xiaohua and the thunder water also entered the strange rune on Bone Honing Xiaohua's forehead. Yes, it's this feeling. I like it. Bone Honing Xiaohua was overjoyed. He used the Big Dipper God Fist again and guided the thunder water around his body. Jade Archive Xiaohua was surprised. Fellow Daoist, didn't you say that the Big Dipper God Fist was already ineffective? Why are you still using it? I'm used to it. Bone Honing Xiaohua said faintly. When Xiaohua heard this, he was rather speechless. Most importantly, Bone Honing Xiaohua said with a smile, whether it is the bone honing technique of the Sunset Island or the bone honing technique of the Demon Clan of Yellow Flower Ridge, they are all boring. How can they be as impressive as the Big Dipper Magical Fist? Selling dog meat under false pretenses. Jade Archive Xiaohua secretly despised the arrogant and narcissistic Xiaohua's figure slowly disappeared. The Jade Pavilion was not a pavilion, but a mountain. It was a high peak that was extremely far away from the Black Cloud Ridge. This Jade Pavilion did not belong to any country. Because of the Jade Pavilion gathering that was held once every 10 years, all the Tao disciples on the hidden immortal continent knew about this place. This year was another decade. Many ambitious Taoism cultivators were flying towards the Jade Pavilion with their ambitions and the expectations of the Taoism kingdom. There were also some cultivators who wanted to obtain rare treasures and flew to the Jade Pavilion. This Yaotai gathering was similar to a dragon gate. The fish leaped over the dragon gate and turned into a dragon. It was very appropriate. Xian Songzi was a Taoism cultivator who had just successfully conceived a nascent soul. Currently, he was riding a snow eagle in midair with 2 boys. That snow eagle was extremely large. Its back was about 10 zhang in size. Xian Songzi's face carried an indescribable pride. He sat cross-legged behind a jade table. On the table, there was a jade pot, a jade cup, and a sparkling and translucent chessboard. Xian Songzi's white and slender fingers held a pitch-black chess piece. His eyes, however, were looking at the chessboard. On the chessboard, there were already black and white chess pieces mixed together. Xian Songzi raised his arm and that black chess piece landed. His other hand shook and a white chess piece appeared in his hand. Immediately after, Xian Songzi's hand that was holding the black chess piece just now reached out to the table. He picked up the jade cup and brought it to his mouth. The spiritual wine in the jade cup entered his mouth. Without waiting for Xian Songzi to put down the jade cup, a boy standing respectfully at the side of the table immediately raised the jade pot. After waiting for a moment, he saw that Xian Songzi didn't put down the jade cup. He hurriedly walked over and tilted the jade pot. The jade-green spiritual wine poured into the jade cup. After Xian Songzi drank 3 cups in a row, he placed the jade cup on the table. The boy tactfully filled the jade cup to the brim and placed the jade pot on the table. He returned to where he was standing earlier and stood there respectfully. The boy's eyes were filled with envy and admiration. Xian Songzi looked very satisfied. It was a feeling of being in high spirits. However, his heart was extremely bitter. If he had a choice, he definitely wouldn't have chosen to kneel before that Taoist cultivator who made him feel both gratitude and resentment 1,000 years ago. It was that sage-like Taoist cultivator who had performed a few spells in front of Xian Songzi's parents. He also gave Xian Songzi's parents some spiritual fruits and a considerable amount of gold and silver. Xian Songzi's parents immediately regarded him as a celestial being. They immediately allowed Xian Songzi to become a disciple of that cultivator. They also allowed that cultivator to bring Xian Songzi out of the remote and poor mountain village that Xian Songzi had long forgotten. Before that Taoist cultivator's lifespan was up, Xian Songzi had always felt that he was very fortunate to be able to walk on a path to heaven. He had a dozen so-called senior martial brothers beside him to take care of him. He also had ready-made cultivation methods and medicinal pills for his cultivation. In particular, Xian Songzi's aptitude was really excellent. He had only been a disciple of Taoism for 100 years, but his cultivation was already catching up to his senior martial brothers who had been cultivating for hundreds of years. At that time, he was already a famous cultivator in a dozen countries. Unfortunately, those happy days were gone when that Taoist cultivator failed to cultivate to the nascent soul stage and reached the end of his lifespan. First, the spiritual herbs and other things provided by the country that Xian Songzi relied on began to decrease. Then, Xian Songzi's so-called senior martial brothers gradually fell in the battle with other Taoist cultivators and Confucian cultivators. Finally, the remaining 2 or 3 senior martial brothers also left the country and went to other places in the hidden immortal continent to look for opportunities for cultivation. Xian Songzi's so-called sect was thus disbanded. However, at this time, Xian Songzi already understood that this was the fate of all Taoist cultivators in the hidden immortal continent. No one could escape. If he wanted to cultivate, then he had to find vitality stones, spiritual herbs, cultivation methods, and so on. Of course, he could also choose not to cultivate. However, as a Taoist cultivator without roots in the hidden immortal continent, he was very likely to die in the hands of Confucian cultivators one day. Perhaps his life would be worse than that of a secular person. The Taoist sect was a road of no return. Of course, it was impossible for Xian Songzi not to cultivate. His aptitude was very high. According to that Taoist cultivator, he was the only disciple who could cultivate to the nascent soul stage and become the master of a country. In the following hundreds of years, Xian Songzi suffered a lot. Not to mention the exclusion and inexplicable pursuit of the Confucian cultivators, the Taoist cultivators forced Xian Songzi to the edge of death several times in order to snatch spiritual herbs, magic weapons, and other things. Countless times, Xian Songzi regretted that he didn't enter a Confucian cultivators sect. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. After regretting, Xian Songzi could only continue to cultivate. Fortunately, Xian Songzi, the leader of the hidden immortal continent's Taoist sects, finally became pregnant. However, after becoming pregnant, Xian Songzi immediately faced two choices. He could either become a rogue cultivator and cultivate with his own strength, or he could become the master of a country and use the power of the country to support his cultivation. Xian Songzi, who had suffered a lot, chose the latter almost without hesitation, just like most of the Taoist cultivators on the hidden immortal continent. Although the strength of a rogue cultivator's nascent soul stage was very strong, it was really dangerous in the hidden immortal continent, where there were many strong Confucian cultivators. Even if he took in a few more children, he might be hunted down and killed by the sanctimonious Confucian cultivators. Of course, this choice was not made by Xian Songzi on the spur of the moment. As early as when he cultivated to the late gold core stage, some monarchs who had no backing contacted him. Many monarchs also put forward excellent conditions. However, Xian Songzi was very ambitious. He knew that once he became the master of a country, his cultivation time would be reduced, and the possibility of him being able to cultivate to the nascent soul stage would be even smaller. Therefore, Xian Songzi declined all visits and concentrated on cultivation. With limited medicinal pills and other things, he finally stepped into the nascent soul stage. As soon as Xian Songzi became pregnant, he immediately attracted the attention of various countries. More than 10 monarchs came to visit him with generous gifts. Xian Songzi naturally welcomed them one by one. After discussing one by one, he chose a country with both potential and wise monarchs to be under his control in the future. Then, he waited for several years and made some preparations to participate in the Yao Tai conference. In addition to these unknown difficulties in Xian Songzi's heart, at this time, Xian Songzi was a high-spirited person. As a Taoist cultivator of the nascent soul stage, it was almost certain that he would get the lot of the master of a country in the Yao Tai conference. As long as he passed this last stage, Xian Songzi could cultivate steadily and gradually develop his own power, preparing for the out-of-body realm in the future. Of course, Xian Songzi also wanted to achieve the out-of-body realm. Otherwise, he would not have painstakingly made so many arrangements. Kill. Xian Songzi's voice seemed to come from his throat, but it also seemed to come from his heart. He stretched out his hand, and several rays of light appeared from his hand. Waves of impact surged in all directions like air waves, immortal. The two boys were shocked. The impact instantly flipped them over, and their bodies floated up like fallen leaves. When they looked at Xian Songzi's hand again, the pitch-black chess piece also turned into nothingness at the same time. On the contrary, the chessboard on the table was under Xian Songzi's finger. The air waves dispersed calmly, and the chess pieces on the chessboard were not affected at all. Alas! Xian Songzi raised his hand and slightly flicked his finger. The air waves from more than 100 feet to the left immediately stagnated, and the two boys also stopped there. When Xian Songzi pulled his hand again, the two boys fell from the air and stood steadily on both sides of the table. Phew! After half a cup of tea's time, Xian Songzi poured himself a few cups of wine. Then, the two boys let out a long sigh and came to their senses with pale faces. They hurriedly knelt down and said, "Immortal, please forgive us. What have you done wrong?" Xian Songzi smiled and said, "It's all my fault. It has nothing to do with you. Get up." Chapter 35-68. Yes, enlightened master. The boy on the left was more quick-witted. He hurriedly stood up and picked up the jade pot on the table. He obediently poured some spiritual wine and smiled. Our cultivation is still shallow, so we still need enlightened master to give us some pointers. If we can truly become your disciples, I'm sure we won't embarrass you in the future. Don't worry. Xian Songzi smiled as he picked up the jade cup. Now that I've taken over the position of Grand Tutor, I can teach my disciples legitimately. Although you've only just entered the foundation establishment stage, it's not impossible for you to become a nascent soul cultivator like me. How would we dare to compare ourselves to enlightened master? The other boy hurriedly said. We can ask for some immortal spells and help enlightened master do some things. Anything is fine. Xian Songzi nodded and was about to say something. Suddenly, he frowned and raised his eyebrows. He looked in front of him. In the blink of an eye, a five-colored aura flashed across the horizon. At that moment, the sky had just begun to brighten, so this aura appeared a little abruptly. Xian Songzi's gaze swept around, but there was nothing out of the ordinary. Even when he used his divine will, he didn't find anything strange. However, just as Xian Songzi retracted his divine will, he suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Before Xian Songzi could channel his powers, there was a loud bang. The snow eagle, which was flying forward with its wings spread, suddenly tumbled. It was as if there was an invisible rope blocking the snow eagle's body. The snow eagle couldn't maintain its balance and lost control of its huge body. Xian Songzi was clearly caught off guard, but his expression didn't change. The moment his body was sent flying, the nascent soul in his dantian opened its eyes. It rubbed its small hands together, and a majestic aura was released from Xian Songzi's body. At the same time, Xian Songzi waved his hand again, and the table, chessboard, and other things fell into his hands. However, before Xian Songzi could put these items into his chinquan bag, and before he could reach out to grab the two boys who had fallen from the eagle's back, rumble. Several thunderous booms descended from the sky, and a destructive aura rushed towards Xian Songzi. Vast pillar of qi. Xian Songzi was shocked, but when he felt the aura, he sneered. As a Taoist cultivator, he was more familiar with this murderous qi pillar than the Confucian cultivators. He relaxed and opened his mouth, and a small pagoda flew out. The small pagoda landed in the air, and thousands of jade talismans flashed. It let out a loud roar, and 1,000 feet of brilliance rushed out, sweeping away all the qi of heaven and earth nearby. It suddenly expanded to dozens of feet and rushed towards Xian Songzi's head. As for Xian Songzi, he kept the item in his hand into his universe bag. Two beams of light from his other hand landed on the two boys. Boom! 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 More than a dozen loud sounds were heard as the vast qi pillars that were comparable to thunderbolts struck the small pagoda. The small pagoda's brilliance flashed violently as it let out a mournful cry. The pagoda that had just expanded was immediately beaten back to its original size, tumbling in the air. Not good. Xian Songzi's expression changed greatly. He didn't expect the vast qi pillars to be so powerful. Moreover, the destructive aura only rushed out of the vast chi pillars at this moment, completely enveloping Xian Songzi. Xian Songzi knew that things weren't good. He didn't dare to care about the lives of the two boys. He hurriedly rubbed his hands together, and thousands of dark red threads of light rushed into the small pagoda along with the spell. The small pagoda trembled rapidly again, and circles of shadows rushed out. Every circle of shadows produced waves of chi that soared into the sky, trying to resist the destructive aura. Xian Songzi's dermic powers surged into the small pagoda at the right time. The second wave of the vast chi pillars rushed over like a tidal wave. Xian Songzi also shouted with great spirit, "Where did this shameless scoundrel come from? Kill, kill, kill." After he said the word kill 3 times, the small pagoda rose up in response. The jade talisman floated up, and the sky was filled with flying flowers. Boom! The rumbling sounds never stopped. Humph! Xian Songzi sneered. The vast chi pillar's aura was indeed very strong, so strong that it made his heart tremble. He couldn't help but want to release the pressure of a nascent soul to resist it. However, when he saw that his natal dermic treasure was able to resist the vast chi pillars, Xian Songzi began to look down on them. He was prepared to release a trace of his divine perception to check on the two boys. After all, the two boys might not have fallen too far in such a short time. GGA. However, just as Xian Songzi's divine perception was released, the snow eagle that was trying its best to stabilize itself in midair suddenly let out a wail. The wail was so ear-piercing that it split the sky. This. Xian Songzi was shocked again. He hurriedly looked over and saw several 5-colored rainbow bridges flying over from afar in front of the snow eagle. They arrived in front of him in a flash. Xian Songzi could already see clearly that the rainbow bridges weren't formed by a cultivator's escape technique. They were sword lights formed by the 5-colored chi pillars. Ambush! How could Xian Songzi not know that he was in big trouble? In his shock, he quickly retracted his divine perception and didn't dare to be distracted. He controlled his natal dermic treasure with one hand and slapped his forehead with the other. The hand of a nascent soul rushed out and grabbed at the rainbow bridges. Puff puff puff. Amidst the continuous rumbling sounds, Xian Songzi's nascent soul hand was shattered by the 5-colored sword pillars. The roaring waves of chi covered the sky and earth. Such a huge commotion also resounded through the nearby space. At the same time that Xian Songzi's body trembled, a bloody light instantly shot into the sky. The huge snow eagle struggled slightly in the 5-colored sword pillars, but it was immediately chopped into many pieces of meat. This is bad. Xian Songzi naturally knew how powerful the snow eagle was, and he also knew the power of his nascent soul hand. However, it wasn't a match for the 5-colored sword pillars at all. The incoming Confucian cultivator was at least at the mid-4th level of origin energy. Just as Xian Songzi's fear rose, the pillar of chi blocked by the small pagoda in the sky changed again. Boom boom. The pillar of chi roared and the pressure on the small pagoda suddenly increased by several times. The light on the small pagoda was instantly extinguished and it fell from the sky. The aura that Xian Songzi had just snorted at now revealed its hidden fangs. It broke through Xian Songzi's pressure and crashed down on Xian Songzi's body. Xian Songzi's face was ashen. Without any hesitation, a ray of light shot out from the top of his head and a nascent soul less than a foot long rushed out. It was the nascent soul that Xian Songzi had just nurtured and hadn't condensed yet. The moment the nascent soul appeared, it immediately waved its small hand and a ray of light flashed like a silk thread. The small pagoda once again shone brightly. Not only did it protect the nascent soul, but it also appeared from the void and covered Xian Songzi's body, whose eyes were already closed. Unfortunately, Xian Songzi had underestimated the strength of his attacker. Without waiting for Xian Songzi's nascent soul to activate the small pagoda, a five-colored sword ray appeared out of nowhere. It seemed to directly cut through the heavy pagoda, but it also seemed to pierce through the void and land on Xian Songzi's body. There were only a few pu sounds and the light on Xian Songzi's body flashed a few times. The protective treasure armor was pierced through and Xian Songzi's body turned into minced meat in the blink of an eye. Ah! Xian Songzi's nascent soul let out a sharp cry. Its eyes were filled with anger. Even now, he still hadn't seen the attacker's true appearance, and his body had already been destroyed. Xian Songzi made a prompt decision. His nascent soul glowed with a faint divine light. He raised his hands and grabbed the small pagoda. His entire nascent soul immediately disappeared in midair. Xian Songzi wanted to use teleportation to escape this place and escape the clutches of the ambushers. Boom! 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 More than a dozen pillars of boundless chi appeared around 1,000 feet away, completely sealing off the surrounding area. A cold voice resounded, "Suppress." Along with the voice, the pillars of Raichi's chi became solid and the Raichi's chi condensed into a ball. There was a flash of light somewhere and Xian Songzi's nascent soul appeared with a panicked expression. He quickly looked around and saw a scholarly general in golden battle armor appear. His face was filled with confusion because he didn't recognize this scholarly general at all. "Who are you?" Xian Songzi's voice was very sharp and filled with anger. "Humph." The scholarly general didn't care at all. He opened his mouth and a mouthful of Raichi's chi flew into the air. A disc fell from the sky. The pillar of Raichi's chi and the terrifying aura that could destroy the world came from the disc. At this moment, the scholarly general was clearly going to kill Xian Songzi's nascent soul. Damn it! Xian Songzi knew that he had encountered a scholarly cultivator who had an inexplicable hatred for Dao cultivators. This scholarly cultivator never needed a reason to attack Dao cultivators. He cursed and formed a seal with his hands. Light flashed around his body. It was clear that he was going to explode his nascent soul to take this scholarly cultivator down with him. Just at this moment, another five-colored sword energy flashed. This sword energy completely controlled the space around Xian Songzi's nascent soul. Before Xian Songzi could form a seal, all of the origin energy disappeared. Xian Songzi's nascent soul seemed to be suppressed and couldn't move at all. The eyes of Xian Songzi's nascent soul were about to drip blood. He had cultivated for 1,000 years and was about to show his talent on the hidden immortal continent, but he was actually ambushed here. The strength of this ambusher was too terrifying. It had only been the time to drink a cup of tea, but his body was destroyed and his nascent soul was about to die. All of his blood, sweat, and tears were about to turn into water. He was really unwilling to accept this. Just as the five-colored sword energy was about to fall and Xian Songzi's nascent soul was about to be torn apart, the sword energy suddenly turned into thousands of strands of five-colored energy that wrapped around Xian Songzi's nascent soul like silk. At the same time, the disc fell and sucked Xian Songzi's nascent soul into it. The disc fell and turned into the size of a palm. It flew into the sky and landed in the hands of the scholarly general in golden armor. The scholarly general looked at the disc and reached out. 5 strands of energy came out from his 5 fingers and entered the disc. He then raised his hand and Xian Songzi's nascent soul came out from the disc. Hee, congratulations, Brother Wang, a tall Confucian scholar flew over on a colorful cloud. The Confucian scholar's cheekbones were prominent, and his eyes were long and slender. In his hand was a treasured sword that was about a foot long. This treasured sword reflected the rising sun and transformed into a rainbow. Chapter 3569. Same to you, the golden-armored Confucian nodded slightly and narrowed his eyes. He looked at the nascent soul on the round plate that had its eyelids closed and was motionless. He said, "This is already the third one. Brother Wang is indeed my unparalleled strategist. I have destroyed 2 Daoist countries and spent a lot of effort to search for Daoist nascent soul stage cultivators in the hidden immortal continent. In 2 years, I only captured 14 nascent soul stage cultivators, which is far from the number of immortal emissaries. I didn't expect to capture 3 nascent soul stage cultivators in a dozen days at the Jade Pavilion. This is all thanks to Brother Wang's good fortune." The Confucian scholar waved his hand and laughed. "If Brother Wang hadn't been conferred the title of Marquis, how could I have learned about the Jade Pavilion meeting from that Daoist cultivator? Moreover, it is said that in this Jade Pavilion meeting, most of the Daoist cultivators are so-called gold core cultivators. There aren't many nascent soul cultivators who can participate. Isn't it a sign of Brother Wang's great fortune? As long as Brother Wang completes the mission of the immortal envoys, you will certainly be favored by the immortal palace. Not to mention establishing an empire that will last for eternity, you can even expect to be ranked among the immortals. Don't worry. You and I have been side by side since we were children. With me, there will be no shortage of Brother Wang." The golden-armored Confucian laughed. "After I obliterate this nascent soul, we will look for the 4th nascent soul." With that, a dragon pattern appeared between the golden-armored Confucian's eyebrows. He bit his middle finger and a drop of blood oozed out. He touched the dragon pattern with his hand, and a wisp of blood-red dragon chi rushed into the air. The Confucian scholar's index finger moved in the air, and the dragon chi followed the movement of his index finger. Inscriptions that resembled the roaring of small dragons appeared above the nascent souls. However, before these inscriptions were finished, the Confucian scholar frowned and his eyes flashed with 5-colored brilliance. He turned his head and reminded, "Brother Wang, I'm afraid there isn't enough time. It seems that there are Daoist cultivators coming from that side." "Oh." Delight appeared on the golden-armored Confucian general's face. He opened his mouth, and the inscriptions that had already been written, as well as the remaining dragon chi, were immediately sucked into his mouth. He raised his hand, and the clouds above the round plate surged, suppressing Xian Songzi's nascent soul into the imperial artifact. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "These Daoist cultivators are like carps crossing the river, all for the sake of the imperial master's lot. Even outsiders can't escape the temptation of fame and fortune. Brother Wang, please conceal yourself. I'll go and take a look." The Confucian scholar's eyes were abnormally bright. "Wait for my signal. Brother Wang, we'll attack together." Thousands of air currents surged around the golden-armored Confucian as he rushed into the sky. The disk also flew up, and the clouds turned into layers of white clouds, which were the same as the ones in the sky, covering the golden-armored Confucian for hundreds of feet around him. The Confucian scholar waved the 5-colored sword in his hand, and the sword turned into a rainbow. The Confucian scholar's figure also fell into it, and he became one with the sword as he rushed into the distance. In less than half a meal's worth of time, in the distant horizon, flames flashed into the sky, followed by a burst of music. More than a dozen boys with music in their hands stood on 3 or 5 huge fire vultures and flew over. The fire vultures were several feet in size, and as they flapped their fiery red wings, wisps of flames rushed into the air. Call. Occasionally, the fire vultures would open their mouths and let out a clear cry, and several fierce flames would spurt out from their mouths and noses. The boys all wore fiery red Daoist robes, and the cuffs of their Daoist robes were decorated with flame patterns. Behind the fire vulture were several flaming carpets. On each of the carpets stood a cultivator in the same Daoist robes. These cultivators were slightly older and each of them stood with a focused expression. Their eyes shone brightly and each of them carried a large gourd on their backs. Behind the cultivators was a fiery red war chariot pulled by a fire dragon. Needless to say, the fire dragon was only dozens of feet long, and its body was surrounded by flames. Wisps of flames seemed to dance rhythmically in the air. Just the fiery red war chariot alone exuded a majestic aura. Anyone who looked at the war chariot would be filled with a kind of blazing heat. This kind of unforgettable aura caused the floating clouds in the air to ripple in all directions. Not to mention, the flames on the war chariot were red and black, and the black flames even distorted the void as the war chariot passed by. Looking at the war chariot, a cultivator who looked like a child sat calmly on it. His Taoist robes flashed with golden light, and a pitch-black flame pattern flickered between his eyebrows. This cultivator looked extremely inconspicuous on the war chariot, but the flames and the terrifying aura of the war chariot seemed to move with the cultivator's breathing. Oh! Suddenly, this cultivator's mouth and nose let out a low hum. The entire war chariot's flames greatly flourished, and that majestic aura even rushed into the air. Stop! A middle-aged man closest to this cultivator hastily spoke. Immediately, the music-playing boy stopped. Ancestor! That middle-aged man hastily turned his head and asked in a low voice, "Do you have any orders?" That child did not pay attention to this middle-aged man. His eyes slightly opened, and two faint flames flashed from his pitch-black pupils. The child raised his head and swept a glance, indifferently saying, "Your distinguished self has dragon chi. I fear you are the master of a country. Hiding here today, are you looking for a suitable national teacher?" It was a pity that after a long while, no one spoke. That child was not angry, and he still said with an indifferent tone, "This old man is the Leaf Fire Nation's Taoist master Huida. I received Star-Lord Hall's Kong Hongwa's invitation to go to the Jade Pavilion. If your distinguished self has the heart to find a talent that can assist your distinguished self in stabilizing the country, you can wait until after the Jade Pavilion's meeting to pay a visit to each Star General." However, speaking to here, Taoist Huida's voice suddenly became cold. "However, this old man sees that your Confucian cultivation has already reached the upper fourth level of origin energy. You can use a dragon weapon to fight against someone with the fifth level of origin energy. I fear you don't need my Tao sect's national teacher, right? Let this old man give you a piece of advice. Don't have any dirty thoughts in your heart. My Tao sect's cultivators are all celestial monarchs in the eyes of the immortal palaces. They are not people that an emperor of a continent like you can understand. As a Tao sect's cultivator, although I can't rashly kill you, if you don't listen to this old man and insist on doing things your own way, sooner or later, you will fall at the hands of my Tao sect's disciples." After a while, Taoist Huida waved his hand and ordered, "Let's go, go." When the middle-aged cultivator heard this, he hastily waved his hand. The dozens of children in front of him began to play again. The fire dragon roared and the war chariot began to move again. Behind the war chariot, there were dozens of young and beautiful women dressed in palace attire. They held various magic tools in their hands and their jade pendants and other items were jingling. Just as Taoist Huida's war chariot flew over 100 meters, a huge dragon-like flame suddenly appeared in the sky and pounced toward a large cloud. Boom! With a loud bang, the clouds did not dissipate like ordinary clouds. Instead, they flashed with golden light. Although the golden light quickly melted into liquid gold in the flames, the clouds did not dissipate. After the time it took to eat a meal, Taoist Huida's trump card disappeared and the fire dragon also gradually disappeared. The cloud violently tumbled and the golden-armored Confucian stepped out of the cloud with an angry expression. At this moment, the disc in his hand was still covered in a layer of faint flame. "Brother Wang." In the distance, a five-colored rainbow appeared out of thin air and the Confucian scholar appeared again. There was a kind of fear on his face and he whispered, "I was also warned by Taoist Huida and didn't dare to rashly send out a message. It's only an upper fourth grade essence force." The golden-armored Confucian narrowed his eyes and the dragon chi between his eyebrows faintly roared. If I go all out with Brother Wang's help, I have a 60% chance of killing him. The Confucian scholar frowned and shook his head slightly. Brother Wang, you underestimate this cultivator too much. He can easily detect our concealment technique, which shows that Dao Sect's divine sense is powerful. Any cultivator with outstanding divine sense generally has a secret technique that others can't reach. We can't let the so-called Star Lord Hall know that we are here to kill nascent soul cultivators. Moreover, Daoist Wada is invited to the Jade Pavilion meeting. If something happens to him, the entire Dao sect of the hidden immortal continent won't agree. This Star Lord Hall, what is it? The golden-armored Confucian didn't comment and asked curiously, who is this Kong Hongwu that Daoist Wada mentioned? How come I don't know anything about him? These are all tricks that the Immortal Palace uses to fool Dao sect, right? The Confucian scholar smiled. Not only Brother Wang doesn't know, but even those Dao sect cultivators who haven't participated in the Jade Pavilion meeting may not know. Forget it. The golden-armored Confucian waved his hand. It's enough to get 3 nascent soul cultivators this time. Now that the Jade Pavilion meeting is close, don't let other Dao sect cultivators notice anything strange. Yes, I will listen to Brother Wang's orders. The Confucian scholar was very respectful and answered with his head lowered. The golden-armored Confucian waved his hand, and the disc fell and turned into a dragon-shaped cloud. The Confucian general flew and landed on the cloud, ordering, Brother Wang, come up and return to the country with me. I don't dare. Seeing the dragon-shaped cloud, the Confucian scholar immediately felt fear and said respectfully, this mountain river seal is the heirloom seal of the capital Qin state. It has always been controlled by the monarch. I don't dare to get close to it. I pardon you. The golden-armored Confucian said with a smile. The Confucian scholar still didn't dare and bowed. Even if Brother Wang agrees, I don't dare to ride on the jade seal. I ask Brother Wang to control the jade seal, and I will open the way for Brother Wang. Alas, okay. The golden-armored Confucian shook his head slightly. Now you're going to become the monarch of a country, but you're still so reserved in front of me. Hee, Brother Wang, don't worry. Although I can be called monarch, my monarch and subject status with Brother Wang has already been established when we were brothers. It won't change in this life. The Confucian scholar smiled and turned into a sword again, rushing into the distance like a nascent soul cultivator. When the Confucian scholar left, the golden-armored Confucian general smiled. The dragon-shaped cloud under his feet flashed with golden light, and he also chased after him like a meteor. In just over an hour, the two had already flown more than thousands of miles. Seeing the mountains spread out under them and the sunlight shining down from above, the golden-armored Confucian general pointed with his finger and said with a smile, if I were born with a cliff, I would expand the territory of the empire to this place. I am willing to rule the hidden immortal forever, and the people of the hidden immortal are all my children. Chapter 3570. Brother Wang's spirit is rare in the world. Even immortal emissaries have to be convinced. Brother Wang's great wish will definitely be realized. It wasn't clear whether the scholar in the distance was flattering or sincere, but his voice was very respectful. At this moment, a pure and holy white brilliance appeared in the distance, like a full moon falling from night to day. It immediately attracted the golden-armored Confucian general's gaze. His eyes flickered with a faint golden light, and his pupils were blooming with the shape of a flower, light feather heavenly horse. The golden-armored Confucian general cried out in surprise, but there was also joy in his tone. When the golden light in his eyes gradually faded, the dragon-shaped cloud under his feet immediately changed direction and rushed towards the heavenly horse. The golden-armored Confucian general shouted, Brother Wang, wait a moment. This Daoist cultivator doesn't seem to be going to the Jade Pavilion gathering. When I kill this Daoist cultivator, I'll use the heavenly horse as a congratulatory gift for you becoming king. Brother Wang. The scholar raised his eyebrows, and his eyes flashed with an indescribable expression. Although his words were still respectful, there was a hint of intimacy in the way he addressed him. When he turned around the five-colored sword light and followed the Confucian general to the heavenly horse, a five-colored divine light slowly appeared in his eyes. However, when he saw the cultivator who was coldly facing the mountain river seal that his royal brother had taken out, his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly cried out, "Yan Ming, be careful. This person's cultivation is definitely not on the surface." However, before the scholar finished speaking, his brother Wang had already made his move. The scholar didn't dare to be negligent. He urged his five-colored true qi and flew into the distance a bit faster than a rainbow. Although it was a bit slower than when he ambushed Xian Songzi, the momentum of a joint attack had already been formed. This scholar's eye-clearing technique was far superior to his brother Wang's. Unfortunately, he still didn't truly see how powerful this Daoist cultivator was. Before he could fly closer, everything that happened in front of him left him dumbfounded. The cultivator riding the heavenly horse was naturally Xiao Hua. However, Xiao Hua's direction was a bit wrong again. He passed by the side of the Jade Pavilion and collided with the two scholars. When the scholar looked at Xiao Hua had already sensed it. Xiao Hua was originally happy that he could finally ask someone for directions. However, before he could release his divine sense, the golden-armored Confucian general had already flown towards him on a dragon-shaped cloud with a proud look on his face. Xiao Hua frowned and clapped his hands. The soaring dragon shears glittering with golden light appeared in his hands. He coldly looked at the Confucian general who was roaring arrogantly. Sure enough, when he was still several dozen feet away from Xiao Hua, the Confucian general Xin Qi surged, and the auspicious cloud under his feet transformed into a circular plate several dozen feet in size. Hundreds of pillars of Xin Qi rushed out from the circular plate, and in the void around 1,000 feet around the circular plate, even more Xin Qi surged out, majestically smashing towards Xiao Hua, as if wanting to smash Xiao Hua into meat paste. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and looked at the Confucian general with a sinister smile and ecstasy on his face. He then slightly raised his eyes to look at the Confucian scholar who used the clear eyes technique in the distance. The aura on the circular plate was indeed powerful. In Xian Songzi's eyes, it was enough to destroy the heavens and earth. However, in Xiao Hua's eyes, after seeing the 5 brocade cloud paintings aura that could exterminate all living things, this kind of aura was somewhat insufficient. Seeing that the pillar of Xin Qi mercilessly descending and really wanting to kill him as soon as they met, Xiao Hua's previous thoughts of asking for the reason had already been strangled by Xiao Hua. Humph. Xiao Hua sneered, and the space several dozen feet around him suddenly became cold. He then clapped his hands, and golden light surged out from the top of his head. A nascent soul hand that was several hundred feet in size soared into the sky and grabbed towards the circular plate. Once the nascent soul hand appeared, the space within 1,000 feet seemed to solidify, and even the pillar of Xin Qi was controlled. At this moment, the Confucian scholar cried out in alarm. The Confucian general named Yan Ming was greatly shocked, but this shock only lasted for a moment. Soon after, the Confucian general laughed loudly. "Xian Yan Liang, come over here. This is another nascent soul cultivator, and his cultivation is close to the upper 4th level of origin energy. Capture him." Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, his expression changed drastically again. Because Xiao Hua's nascent soul hand was coming from afar, a suffocating feeling was born in his heart. The Xin Qi in his body, like the Xin Qi in the air, was in a state of stagnation. Damn it! The Confucian general cursed. He opened his mouth and a blood-red Xin Qi fell on the circular plate. A bloody mist appeared on the circular plate, and the entire circular plate suddenly expanded. Within the bloody mist, countless images of mountains and rivers appeared. The Xin Qi had a dignified aura. It was several times heavier than before, and in an instant, the nascent soul hand became dim. It's just a small trick. Xiaohua sneered, and his divine sense suddenly activated. During this time, Xiaohua's divine sense had been tempered by Dou Shanjun's divine sense secret technique, and had become a lot stronger. With this activation, the magic power in his body was truly matched with the secret technique, and majestically rushed into the nascent soul hand. Xiaohua's divine sense moved at will, and the nascent soul hand emitted a bright golden light. It crossed the sky and grabbed the entire circular plate along with the pillar of Jinqi. Rumble. A series of rumbling sounds came from the nascent soul hand. The entire nascent soul hand continuously shook, but there was no sign of it collapsing. Suppress. 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 The Confucian scholar's face was somewhat pale. He hurriedly bit his finger and pressed it on the dragon mark between his eyebrows, and shouted 3 times in a row. Roar! From the dragon mark, a blood-red crystal thread rushed out. This crystal thread was in the shape of a dragon and elephant. It landed on the circular plate, and the entire circular plate instantly turned into an oval-shaped jade seal. A terrifying Jinqi that could make immortals and mortals retreat rushed out from the jade seal, and in an instant, Xiaohua's nascent soul hand was pushed away. Boring. Xiaohua's reaction was definitely unforgettable for the Confucian scholar named Xian Yanming. Xiaohua helplessly shook his head and berated his unique imperial dragon technique. Boring? Xian Yanming sneered. How could a Daoist cultivator know the power of a Confucian cultivator's Jinqi? Unfortunately, just as these sarcastic words came out from the bottom of his heart, he saw Xiaohua's Jinqi flourish. Roar! A Jinqi that was countless times stronger than the mountain and river seal rushed out. This Jinqi unexpectedly turned into the shadow of a huge dragon. It opened its mouth in the air, and the mountain and river seal fell into the huge dragon's mouth like a small stone. Not only that, after the mountain and river seal fell into the huge dragon's mouth, a powerful suction force soared into the sky like maggots. It really fell on the dragon mark between Xian Yanming's eyebrows. Before Xian Yanming could do anything, his body became light, as if a cold wind blew through his heart. The dragon mark between his eyebrows turned into a golden python and fell into the huge dragon's mouth. Xian Yanming was stunned. Although this was the first time he encountered it, and he had never heard of it before, he clearly knew in his heart that the Jinqi in his body, which was the fate of the capital Qin state, had been robbed. It was taken away by this unremarkable Daoist cultivator in front of him. How is this possible? Xian Yanming almost roared in his heart, but the development of the situation had long been out of his control. In the moment when he was absent-minded, he saw Xiaohua open his hand, and a golden light flashed in the air. Although Xian Yanming's golden armor flashed with countless inscriptions, layers of Jinqi were generated from the void, layer by layer, and layer by layer, they condensed, wanting to block the sword light. However, under the swing of the golden dragon's tail, all the inscriptions were cut in half, and all the Jinqi was cut off from Xian Yanming's neck as easily as tofu. Xian Yanming's eyes were rounder than usual. Perhaps only at this time did he remember what Huda Zhenren said before. Pooh! Xian Yanming's neck spurted out several feet of blood, and the same green Jinqi rushed out from the blood, with a panicked face, and fell towards the 5-colored rainbow in the distance. Humph! Xiaohua coldly snorted, and the Ting Jiao shears slightly trembled. A golden light streaked across the sky, and the whole Jinqi was cut in half. As the Ting Jiao shears' golden light shone brightly, the Jinqi was also absorbed by the Ting Jiao shears. Go! Xiaohua pointed his finger again, and the Ting Jiao shears did not stop in the air, and cut towards the approaching 5-colored rainbow. Xian Yanliang's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. In the blink of an eye, in the time it took for him to urge his Jinqi to catch up, Brother Wang, who was at the upper fourth level of Jinqi, had already fallen. Not to mention that the capital Qin state's national weapon had fallen into the hands of this Daoist sect cultivator. Even the emperor's imperial dragon technique was a piece of cake in front of this Daoist sect cultivator's Jinqi. In particular, the golden light that pierced through the sky, flashed with a cold light and sharpness that was not the slightest bit inferior to the Jinqi sword in his hand. Although Xian Yanliang's heart was filled with hatred, he did not lose his reason. The moment he urged his Jinqi to cut towards the Tingjiao shears, his entire body flashed, and he prepared to escape in another direction. Caw! With a crisp sound, the five-colored rainbow shook violently, and several cracks appeared. Xian Yanliang's face immediately paled. Xian Yanliang did not dare to hesitate any longer, and the Jinqi in his body gushed out like it was free. He hurriedly rushed into the distance, and he did not even have the courage to look back. He was afraid that if he looked back, his speed of escape would decrease, and that golden light would fall on his body. The escape of a cultivator at the upper fourth level of Jinqi was comparable to the strength of a late Yuanying stage cultivator. Although Xian Yanliang's escape was not comparable to the teleportation of a Yuanying stage cultivator, the difference was not too great. If it was someone else, they might not be able to catch up. Unfortunately, this kind of speed paled in comparison to Xiao Hua's lightning escape. However, although Xiao Hua liked to eliminate evil, he was merciful towards enemies who did not act ruthlessly against him. Looking at the five-colored Jinqi from afar, Xiao Hua waved his hand, and the Tingjiao shears fell into his hand. There was not the slightest bit of damage on the sharp blade. Damn it, I really didn't expect this. This Do Shan Jun's divine sense technique is really powerful. Xiao Hua sighed with emotion. Not to mention this Xiao's Yuanying stage hand is extremely powerful, the speed and power of this Tingjiao shears have also increased by a lot. With this kind of divine sense, this Xiao can easily use all of the Yuanying stage techniques. Chapter 3571. However, after putting away the soaring dragon shears, Xiao Hua scratched his head and said in distress, I just wanted to ask for directions. How did I get involved in another life? I really don't know what this Confucian cultivator is thinking. He seems to have the luck of an emperor. Why is he coveting my heavenly horse? Immediately after, Xiao Hua's figure descended and used the Samadhi true fire to set Xian Yanming's corpse on fire. He also took the golden armor, Qinkuan bag and other items. After looking through them, he sneered, this guy is actually the king of Su province's capital Qin state. He didn't want to be the king of a good country and came to find trouble with me for no reason. Looking at the memorials and other items in the Qinkuan bag, he can be considered a diligent king. Why is he even more blind than the king of Bronze Pillar state? Thinking about it, Xiao Hua prepared to burn all these items, but after a slight hesitation, he put them away. These items were just waste paper to Xiao Hua. They couldn't be compared to the large amount of vitality stones in the Qinkuan bag, but who knows if these things will be useful in the future. Just as Xiao Hua landed on the flying carriage and was about to find someone to ask for directions, a deep voice sounded in Xiao Hua's mind, fellow Daoist, I am Dragon Vein Xiao Hua. Can you come in for a chat? Oh. Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. The disc was taken away by Dragon Vein Xiao Hua. It must be similar to the 5-dragon Imperial Jade Seal. Xiao Hua couldn't use it himself, so he didn't care. Who knew that Dragon Vein Xiao Hua would call him? That thing must be strange. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. His mind immediately returned to his body. Fellow Daoist, please. Dragon Vein Xiao Hua held the oval-shaped mountain river seal in his hand and smiled at Jade Archive Xiao Hua. Jade Archive Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent and returned the greeting, I am polite. Thank you for your trouble. No need to be polite. Dragon Vein Xiao Hua was majestic and graceful. His voice was equally dignified. This is just a small matter for I. Moreover, I can devour dragon chi. Why wouldn't I do it? Hee, I don't know why fellow Daoist called me. Is there a problem with this item? Jade Archive Xiaohua asked with a smile. There's nothing special about this item. It's just an ordinary item used to suppress fate, similar to the 5-dragon Imperial Jade Seal from before. Dragon Vein Xiaohua replied, it's just that this item is somewhat different from the 5-dragon Imperial Jade Seal. There are actually a few interesting things suppressed inside. Something interesting. Jade Archive Xiaohua was deep in thought. He looked at the disc in Dragon Vein Xiaohua's hand. Dragon Vein Xiaohua opened his mouth and a mouthful of yellow qi landed on the disc. The image of mountains and rivers gushed out from the disc and then 3 nascent souls were sent out along with the dragon qi. Oh. Interesting indeed. Xiaohua looked at the 2 nascent souls who were in a daze. One of the nascent souls had its eyes tightly closed and was surrounded by 5 colored threads of qi. He couldn't help but nod his head. That's not interesting. Dragon Vein Xiaohua smiled faintly and opened his mouth again. After the yellow gas fell, an item rushed out from the mountain river seal. A pure white cloud flew out from the mountain and river seal, and an uncontrollable aura rushed out from the cloud. Even in Xiaohua's body, strands of noble spirit seeped out from the void and wrapped around the cloud. In just a moment, the cloud was formed, and the aura was about to soar into the sky. What is this? Jade Archive Xiaohua was stunned. He grabbed with his hand and the cloud that soared into the sky fell into Jade Archive Xiaohua's hand and turned into a thin layer of almost invisible cloud. The strangest thing was that the cloud was extremely repulsive to Jade Archive Xiaohua. The edges of the cloud were like tentacles, trying to avoid Jade Archive Xiaohua's aura. Moreover, the uncontrollable aura from before was brewing inside the cloud, as if it would explode as long as it found an opportunity. Dragon Vein Xiaohua smiled and said, this must be something for Confucian cultivators. As for what it is specifically used for, I don't know. Where is Confucian cultivator Xiaohua? Jade Archive Xiaohua asked. Shua. The 5-colored cloud moved and the scholarly dressed Confucian cultivator Xiaohua appeared in front of Jade Archive Xiaohua. He cupped his hands and said, what business does fellow immortal have with me? At this time, Jade Archive Xiaohua was used to Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's name. He stretched out his hand and asked, does fellow immortal recognize this thing? I don't recognize it. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua answered very cleanly. After answering, he didn't forget to add, fellow immortal recognizes it, I recognize it. If fellow immortal doesn't recognize it, I also don't recognize it. Jade Archive Xiaohua rolled his eyes at Confucian cultivator Xiaohua and said in a strange tone, fellow immortal has only studied for a few years, why do your words sound so sour? What made Jade Archive Xiaohua's eyes pop out was that Confucian cultivator Xiaohua actually shook his head and said, if you know it, then you know it. If you don't know it, then you don't know it. I still have clothes to dry at home. I'll take my leave first. Dragon Vein Xiaohua laughed and disappeared with a flash of golden light. The mountain river seal, however, remained in place. Fellow immortal, help I take a look at what this thing is. Jade Archive Xiaohua waved his hand and threw the cloud into Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's hand without waiting for him to drop his book bag. Scholarly cultivator Xiaohua took the strands of cloud, but before he could do anything, a loud boom resounded. The strands of cloud began to expand as if they were filled with air. Soon after, strings of jade flew out from the expanding cloud along with heavenly music. Then, layers upon layers of palaces appeared from the cloud. Xiaohua glanced at the Jade Archive and saw that there was an immortal jade palace hidden inside the cloud. Immortal Palace. Jade Archive Xiaohua frowned because he was very familiar with the image of the immortal palace inside the cloud. It was the immortal palace that Chongyun Sex Mo Jianli and the others showed on the stage during the longevity-suppressing immortal ceremony. This is the immortal palace decree. Jade Archive Xiaohua didn't hear anything, but Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's eyes flashed with 5 colors, as if there was something Confucian cultivators could see inside the cloud. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua said indifferently, "It's for the king of Qin state, Xian Yanming, but there's nothing written inside. I don't know what use it has." Jade Archive Xiaohua frowned even more. Looking at the immortal palace decree in Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's hand, he asked curiously, why did the immortal palace give the immortal palace decree to the king of hidden immortal continent? Moreover, according to common sense, any decree should be written on the immortal palace decree, right? That's true, but maybe the immortal palace has some secret that they don't want others to know, so they didn't write anything. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua nodded. Unfortunately, Xian Yanming's corpse is long gone, and I'm afraid his soul is also gone. Otherwise, fellow immortal could ask. Forget it, who cares? Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's matter has nothing to do with I. Jade Archive Xiaohua waved his hand and asked, is it better to leave this immortal palace decree with fellow immortal, or in the mountain river seal? Naturally, it's better to leave it with me. This immortal palace decree is the same as Mahavairokkana's Buddhist edict. The essence of Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's cultivation can be traced. It's very useful for my cultivation. Leaving it with fellow immortal Dragon Vane is like casting pearls before swine. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua smiled, and his eyes curved. Only now could it be seen that this Confucian cultivator Xiaohua was definitely Xiaohua's primordial spirit. Even if he read Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's poems and books, he still couldn't change his greedy nature. After Confucian cultivator Xiaohua finished speaking, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of true qi. The entire immortal palace decree turned into a pure white feather robe that fell on Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's body. Waves of clouds appeared out of thin air, and Confucian cultivator Xiaohua really looked like an immortal. Goodbye. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua was very polite. He cupped his hands and said, in the future, if there is such a good thing, don't hesitate to call me over. I'm willing to serve fellow immortal. I won't see you off. Jade Archive Xiaohua's eyes seemed to have seen Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's foxtail. He waved his hand and his gaze fell on the 3 nascent souls. After thinking for a moment, Xiaohua made a grabbing motion with his hand and the 3 nascent souls fell into his hand. Then, his entire figure disappeared. In a flash, Jade Archive Xiaohua's figure appeared in the space. However, before he could stand still, he saw layers of bubbles appear on the skin of the 3 nascent souls in his hand. The bubbles rapidly expanded and kept bursting. The skin of the 3 nascent souls collapsed in the space. Oh, not good. Jade Archive Xiaohua was shocked. He didn't dare to be negligent. He covered his robe and his figure swayed. He quickly rushed out of the space with the 3 nascent souls. When the 3 nascent souls came out of the space, the bubbles on the skin immediately disappeared. The previous collapse also disappeared. This. Jade Archive Xiaohua pondered for a moment and immediately understood. Damn it, I understand. The nascent souls of Taoist cultivators are the condensation of the world's spiritual energy. In the end, it is the Tao foundation and the world's spiritual energy. In I's space, the world's spiritual energy is different from the outside world. The primordial spirit and the physical body can enter, but the nascent souls can't. Good, fortunately, I's nascent soul has just been born and hasn't entered the space. Otherwise, it would be a big loss. What does fellow Taoist think? Jade Archive Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and asked. Green-robed Xiaohua's figure appeared next to Jade Archive Xiaohua. He looked at the three nascent souls with some disdain and shook his head slightly. Fellow Taoist, although these two nascent souls are in the middle stage of the nascent soul stage, it seems that the difference between them and my nascent souls is not small. You have a good idea. Everyone can use the body of this nascent soul, but I don't think it's good. Others may not like it. Wait for I to see. Jade Archive Xiaohua raised his head and thought for a moment. He stretched out his hand and a thin crystal thread appeared between his index finger. It split into three and fell between the eyebrows of the three nascent souls. A moment later, Jade Archive Xiaohua shook his hand and the crystal thread disappeared. He said, "As I thought, the primordial spirits of these two nascent souls have already been obliterated. They are just empty shells. If fellow Taoists are interested, you can all enter." As he said this, he looked at green-robed Xiaohua with a smile and said, "Could it be that fellow Taoist is not interested?" "Am I? How could I not be interested?" Green-robed Xiaohua replied in an embarrassed tone. When green-robed Xiaohua entered one of the nascent souls, the nascent soul opened its eyes. It was very lively and the nascent soul's body expanded a bit. However, the nascent soul waved its hands and looked at itself. It then lowered its head and closed its eyes. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.